Oh, I could have grabbed one for you.
Feel bad.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the meeting of the Yarmouth Select Board of May 7th, 2024. This will be a hybrid meeting that necessitates that this brief notice be read into the record. This is to formally advise that it is required by General Laws, Chapter 38, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021, and as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. The Yarmouth Select Board will hold a public meeting on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the hearing room, Yarmouth Town Hall, 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth, Mass. Public is welcome to either attend in person or via the alternate public access provided below. And that access is published on our website and gives directions how to join it by computer or by a telephone. So we will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So on announcements, we have a few. Could I have the red folder, please?
Red folder? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
The first one is a proclamation issued by this board, joining many others at the federal, state, and local levels of town government. And the proclamation is in honor and in recognition of Public Service Week. And the citation is as follows. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, tribal, city, and town levels. These unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. Whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. Whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the town, the United States, and around the world. Whereas public servants include teachers, town heavy equipment operators, mechanics, health and building officials, water division technicians, finance administrators, library, senior center recreation, parks and golf staff, laborers, computer technicians, and social workers, and countless other occupations. Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Yarmouth, Massachusetts, do hereby announce and proclaim to all citizens and set seal hereto that May 5th through the 11th, 2024 is Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, tribal, city, and town. That is the proclamation that has been unanimously adopted by this board in honor, recognition and honor of these contributions of these various people who service our government at every level. Thank you. Just before the meeting, I got a telephone message from Tracy Post, who asked if I would remind everyone that there will be a Memorial Day service here at Town Hall on Memorial Day. And if I'm correct, that date's May 27th. And it will be at 1 o'clock in the morning,
11.
okay?
11 o'clock.
I'm sorry, yeah, 1 o'clock, yeah. Yeah, you bring your own. At 11, I'm sorry, 11 a.m. Will be the time. There was some glitch previously about the time. That's been rectified. It will be 11. I think a lot of people did know that, but I just want to make sure that I carry out that message only because I was asked to. Any other messages?
Well, I do want to make an announcement for anyone that's here this evening for the Harbor Club Incorporated doing business as Tugboats Restaurant, which had a hearing this evening for an entertainment license, which will be postponed to the same time, 6:15 next week, May 14. So if you're here for tugboats, that's going to come up May 14. And I call to the board's attention, we have received some written comments, which we'll give you now and also have in the file for the 14th. And just the reason for the delay is so they could comply with, they have a notice requirement, the requisite number of days that the abutters notices go out, so that's what they needed to correct.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we have an election coming up. What's the date on that? Is it the 21st?
21, May 21.
So May 21st is the town election, okay? The polling hours, I'm not going to mess with. I would check with the clerk on that. It's probably is, I assume it's posted.
Yes.
All right.
But staying with that, if we could,
Sure.
my understanding is there's a candidates' night on May 15th, being held at the Cultural Center. Is that at 6 or 7? Does anyone know?
I believe it's 6 o'clock. I got a notice the other day.
I know,
See if I can
yeah.
find it.
Could you repeat the date?
Sure, it's May 15th, Wednesday, May 15th, 6 p.m. at the Cultural Center. We're just going to verify the time. Peter's going to take a look at that.
See if I can find the note.
And I believe we have 5 candidates running for this position to fill 2 vacancies. So we welcome all to come join us at the Cultural Center.
Right. I can't find it. I must have deleted it. We'll make sure it gets posted again on the website, so it's there. And it's extremely important to vote for the town election. At the last election, there was roughly 1,500 people that voted total out of roughly 20,000 of registered voters in the town. So it'd be really nice if we get a nice turnout to make your opinion felt. You residents are the legislature, and it'd be great if you appoint who you want to represent you and stuff. And there's some very good candidates running, both for the select board and for the school committee. So, please come out and vote. Thank you.
And I will affirm that it is 6 p.m. And I underscore also, please come out and vote. This is your chance to really have a voice in local government, so. And this is 2 members of the board, and given that the board is a total of 5 people, that's a good number of people that you'd be electing.
Okay. Public comment. Does anybody want to be heard on public comment?
I'm not sure what gets aired at that time.
These are just general public comments. If you're here for a hearing, you can address those comments at the time of the hearing.
Right, that's why I was asking. Okay, all right.
Yeah, public comment is for you to voice your opinion on not only anything that might come up here tonight, but just in general about town government. It's related to town government, and it might be a criticism, it might be in praise of something, it might be, well, we think this should happen or that should happen, or have you ever thought about doing something this way? You know, it's pretty open. But what it does not do, it does not invite a cross dialogue with the board, because
Yeah.
there's public meeting laws that necessitate certain things being on an agenda before they can be open to the kind of discussion sometimes that people want to have. And the proper thing in that case is to say, can you get something like this on the agenda? Pretty much that. But even though you are commenting on a specific item that's coming up tonight, preferably that's the best time. But there's nothing that says, you know, you can't make a statement, a public comment.
I understand that. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys. So,
Thank you.
nation of recognition for your public services.
Thank you. Okay,
We do have a hand on the big screen,
who is it?
Vita Morris.
Vita Morris. Vita, can you hear me?
Yes, and can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and you are recognized.
Okay. I'm going to continue on the subject matter that you were just discussing with regard to the candidates' night. I looked for any kind of information on the website this morning, and I couldn't find it, so I ended up having to call the administrator's office this morning to find out that there is such a thing scheduled already, and you gave that information right now. But I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not been, posted on the website, the town's website, for everyone to see. And in the same vein, I thought that someone was appointed to keep tabs on what was going on with the illegal aliens while they were here, and we were supposed to get updates on that situation. And now it's getting to the point of almost 2 weeks since they departed. And here again, I don't see anything at all on the website to inform the public that they have indeed left and probably left the school district and everything. So I'm a little bit disappointed that neither one of those issues has been posted on the town website. I hope it will be so fairly soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Vita. Anyone else?
No one else on the screen.
I don't see anybody either. I know we announced the postponement on tugboats. They're not sending anybody here tonight, are they?
No, but it would be a good idea to open the hearing and to
Make the motion.
continue it to the 14th.
So what's the next date on that?
It's May 14th.
Okay.
I make a motion to extend the hearing for the tugboats to May 14th, 2024 at 6:15.
Okay, let me just open the hearing on that
I'm sorry.
first. Read the notice, and then we will address your motion. Okay, here it is. All right. Noticed for 6:15 was an annual weekday and Sunday entertainment license. The Harbor Club, Inc., doing business as Tugboats Restaurant, Theodore Zambelis, manager, 21 Arlington Street, West Yarmouth, Mass. This is the public notice on that matter. The Yarmouth Select Board, acting as the local licensing authority, has received an application from the Harbor Club, Inc., doing business as Tugboats Restaurant. Theodore Zambelis, manager, 21 Arlington Street, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts, for an annual weekday and Sunday entertainment license for live and recorded music up to include up to 2 musicians or singers, amplification system, and/or disc jockey. Live music in all areas shall be from 11:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. These hours are for both weekdays and Sundays. Only one musician with no amplification shall be allowed in the upstairs bar area. 1 to 2 piece ensemble in only one area in the restaurant at any one time is allowed. There will be no entertainment on the deck area unless there is a protective isinglass allowed. There will be no entertainment on the deck area unless there is I just said that. There's a protective isinglass barrier around the deck. The specific requests are per Board of Appeals petition decision number 5063. So the Board of Appeals has actually put certain limitations on this application already. Hearing will be on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, in the hearing room at the town offices, 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. The Select Board's meeting begins at 6 p.m. Written comments will be accepted until 4:30 p.m. Friday, May 3rd, 2024, in the Administrator's office at Town Hall. Verbal comments will be accepted at the hearing. Now, I'm informed through our town administrator that additional time is needed to comply with the notice requirements on behalf, on the applicant's part, and that they've requested that it be continued for a period of 1 week from tonight. And I'll now entertain Selectman Smith's motion.
I make a motion to extend the public hearing to May 14th, 2024 at 6:15 at Town Hall.
I second that
I have a
motion.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed by nay? The ayes have it, 3-0. The matter's continued to May 14th, is it? May 14th, 6 o'clock p.m.
6 p.m.
Thank you. Okay. Now we have a hearing on a special all alcohol license and special entertainment license, Christopher Schultz, Cape Cod Pirate Festival at the Joshua Sears Memorial Field, Assessor's Map 50, Parcel 130, South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. You ready to go on that one? All right, come forward to the table. All right, good evening. Just introduce yourself for the record and tell us how we can help you with this, these licenses.
Certainly. Christopher Schultz. I'm the producer of the Cape Cod Pirate Festival, which I produce through my company, New Latitude Events, on behalf of Pirates and Patriots of Cape Cod. And basically, we are looking to host the event again. This will be our 4th time for this event. For the past 2 years, we've been doing it at the old drive-in site, which is currently under renovation and construction, so it's not available to us this year. And the only practical alternative that we found was the Joshua Sears Field just across the street, which we're hoping to be able to use this year for our event for our 2 weekends.
Okay. So it's pretty much going to be the same operation, just a change of site?
Correct. Correct.
And just for the sake of the people out there, the Josh Sears Field is the field outside of, it's behind the old Ezra Baker School.
It's behind the old Simpkins School.
I'm sorry, what did I say, Ezra Baker? I gotta hang up on Baker, my daughter works there.
Sorry.
Simpkins, behind there and adjacent also to the, now the Bridgewater State University, which used to be the Lawrence MacArthur. Shorthand, where we have the Fall Festival.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly going to be in the same
So-
general footprint, yes.
And you'd be using pretty much that same area?
Yes.
Okay. Any change in the production at all?
No, aside from a few different entertainment acts, we're still going to be posting 4 different stages of entertainment throughout the day. Live entertainment at each location, some of it music, some of it magic, some variety, some comedy. We're excited that this year we're opening up our Kids Cove, which we've had children's activities before, but this is the first time we're going to have a dedicated area with STEM-focused, nautical-focused crafts. We've partnered with the Cape Cod Maritime Museum in Hyannis, and they're going to be conducting programming in that space, as well as crafts, games, and entertainment for them. So that's a nice addition for this year, and we're going to be locating our treasure stage, which is basically our family entertainment stage, right next to that, which will be near the front gate. Aside from that, we're looking to basically keep things the way they have been. There's not a lot of extraordinary growth. We're going to have some of the same games. We're not going to have any rides this year, but we are going to have many of the games that we had last year, and I'm excited for the new entertainment that we're bringing in as well.
Okay. Approximately how many people do you get that, where they buy a ticket to get, general admission ticket to get in?
Yes, yes.
How were the last couple of years' sales? What kind of numbers were?
Well, I'll tell you, over the past 3 years, we're actually really excited. We've seen 150% growth year over year in our audience, and we've had a great audience retention. We 128% audience retention, which means the people who come to the show come back. And what's really exciting about it is about half of the folks who come to the festival are local residents who live in the Mid-Cape or in the Lower or Upper Cape areas, and half of them come from off-Cape, and several of them actually come from out of state, which I think is really great. Our first year, we saw about 1,000 people, and it has grown dramatically each year, and we're hoping to see more this year. I think we're hoping to get we're hoping to get for about 1,500 to 2,000 a day, ideally.
How many?
1,500 to 2,000.
1,500 to 2,000? Wow, that's a good numbers. So we're talking for hours, and I'm going to read the notice to make sure we get everything right here. June 1st, which is a Saturday, Sunday, June 2nd, and then Saturday, June 8th, and Sunday, June 9th, 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. on each of those days.
Yes, sir.
And alcohol services to be between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, I should have probably read this at the beginning of our dialogue, but let me get it into the record right now. Town of Yarmouth Select Board, Special Alcohol and Entertainment License Hearing. The Yarmouth Select Board, acting as the local licensing authority, has received an application from Christopher Schultz for a special all alcohol license and a special entertainment license for Cape Cod Pirate Festival at the Joshua Sears Memorial Field, Assessors Map 50, Parcel 130, South Yarmouth, Mass. On Saturday, June 1, 2024, Sunday, June 2, 2024, Saturday, June 8, 2024, and Sunday, June 9, 2024, between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. on each of those days. Alcohol services to be between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. on each of those days. Entertainment will include a public show, live music, concert, amplification system, theatrical exhibition, and/or stage play. Hearing will be held on Tuesday, May 7th, at the 2024 Yarmouth Town Hall, 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth. Selectmen's meeting begins at 6 p.m. Written comments will be accepted until 4:30 p.m. Friday, May 3rd, 2024, in the Town Administrator's office at Town Hall, or can be submitted electronically to public comment at yarmouth.ma.us. Verbal comments will be accepted at the hearing. Before I break away to the other board members, Bob, did we get any written comments on this either way?
I'm looking through.
Not that we received.
One block from tugboats? No. All my comments are for tugboats.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Certainly, may.
I see Chief Lennon in the audience, and when I look at my paperwork here, I see a response from the fire department and the health department, but I do not see a response from the police department. And I just wanted to hear from the chief as to the police department's feelings on this event.
Good evening. That paperwork generally goes to Lieutenant Bryant, so I don't know why there's not a signature on it. But I can say in the past, we have approved it, and there have been no issues with the Pirate Festival at the locations that they've had it at. So
Thank
I don't
you.
have any objection to it right now, but I can sign it for you right now if you want me to, so it's official.
No, that's and just one other question. Are there police details that are assigned to that event?
Yes, if there's alcohol service, there's a police detail there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Chief.
Welcome. That depends on the crowd.
So you will add as needed?
We work with the promoter.
I think for the sake of the public that might be listening, there was a question that came from the audience that was answered by the chief, and it was a question as to what the number of the police detail would be. And the chief's response was that is determined by the number of attendees at the event. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I see you got all the tip cards in with your application, which is nice to see. From Board of Health, just says all food vendors must apply for a temporary food permit 1 month prior to the event. And the Health Department will inspect all food vendors. That's their only comment. Tent and sign permits need approval. That's not signed, but I'm sure that's probably from the building department. Fire department says they support the event as presented in your packet. They reserve the right to require fire/EMS details should the attendance rise above projected level. So it's the same thing as Chief was saying. What the requirement's going to be just going to depend upon what the occupancy level is going to be, or attendee, as Dorcas says, the attendee level. No overnight fires for cooking, and maintain fire department access per 527 CMR 1, Chapter 18. That's what it was, fires, comments. I don't see any other comments from any other board, so I think from a board point of view, everything's looking good. Questions, comments? Let's go with Peter.
I hope you have a very successful event. Do you have any rain dates in mind? Because you didn't list anything in here.
We don't. We actually ran into that issue last year. Our first weekend was pretty much a washout because of the weather. We had that microburst, and we were not able to open on our opening day because we prioritized the safety of our attendees and the safety of our staff and vendors. The wind was just unacceptably dangerous, so we did not open that day. The second day we did open, we ended up closing early because, again, the wind was pretty aggressive. So we effectively only had one good weekend last year. But we don't plan, we try to go rain or shine. We don't really have dates because a lot of our performers are traveling. They tour to other shows. So after they leave us, they travel to North Dakota, Texas, Arizona, wherever they happen to have their next booking.
I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you.
Dorcas.
Actually, I had my question answered. Thank you. Good luck with your event.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions.
Yeah, when he's talking about rain or shine, you should have said, hey, we're talking about pirates here, right? That's
exactly right.
Rain or shine, come on. You guys are tough people out in the high seas.
It's true, it's true.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this application.
I think you have some people in the public.
Oh, do I?
To speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoever wants to speak publicly, can come forward.
Go right to the mic.
Talk about the parking in our lot.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Zanakis. I live at the Simpkins School Residences. We have to speak about, number one, what arrangements have you made for parking?
We came up with an arrangement with the director of the Cape Cod Collaborative, and we have permission to use their parking lot in the back and the field beyond. I heard it mentioned from the crowd concerns about Simpkins. That was one of the conditions for our applications, that we had a plan for that, and we're actually planning on barricading that road that passes through so that anybody coming to our space won't be trying to drive through and park there. We will have traffic attendants directing people to park, and we are charging for parking as well. So as
Okay,
people,
but they're not coming through Simpkins area?
no, they'll be coming in through the Bridgewater State area that was
From
reserved.
28?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
We will have signs out in front indicating that that's the entrance for the Pirate Festival, so people know, and there won't be any directions. In fact, I specifically went out of my way not to say that the event is being held in the field behind Simpkins School, because that has been used a lot in the past, and as a result, people look for Simpkins School and they park in your lot.
Yes, they
So-
do, and
So, well, and that's the reason why we
Right.
specifically said it's being held at the Joshua Sears Memorial Field, which when you put it into your GPS, it shows up there and it shows the entrance by Bridgewater State, so people won't be getting.
okay,
deviated.
and there'll be signage around where people would come?
Yes.
Okay. That is at least good news, because we continue to struggle with people who have events, baseball, especially the Seaside Festival, you know. Even the tenants take the money and then say, go park in the parking lot. I mean, so please make sure that they're all well-trained.
Yes,
Okay.
we will. And again, like I said, we're going to be directing people to park in the space behind the Bridgewater School, the Bridgewater School right now, and that field beyond that. And if there is any overflow, we have indicated that we'd be directing them to the vacant lots over here, which are not going to be in service during that day. But we don't expect there to be that much overflow
Okay.
based on the parking we've had in the past. The area over there that we've dedicated for parking should be more than sufficient.
Okay. I know that something that strikes fear into all of us is this idea of liquor from 10:30 in the morning. It's a concern, I think, of most of us. I don't know that I speak for everybody, but I know my own feelings are, you know, when you put liquor into the mix, people are less likely to follow their rules, and they get very casual. And I would be concerned that we have enough police supervision, even towards our direction as well, because we remain hopeful that things will go smoothly, and I wish you success.
Thank you.
I'm concerned also about the noise, and we do have people who are veterans, and I understand that you shoot cannons off it periodically.
We have for the past couple of years. We are not going to have cannons this year.
Okay, I know that our vets will appreciate that. So will my dog. I think I've covered everything I need to cover because I want to know that, these things are being taken care of. Is there a way of contacting the powers that be, you or whoever else is in charge, if we find that we need to contact somebody?
Absolutely. So we will have people on staff who will be present during the day. That
Right.
if you need to reach somebody physically in person, you can always approach our box office or somebody on staff there. However, more efficiently, if you need to, the email address on our website goes directly to me. That's my email address. So you
Okay,
can reach me through that if there's any issues.
Would you be willing to give me that email?
Of course, of course. You can email askbuck, ASKBUCK,
ASK
BUCK,
UCK
at CapeCodPirateFest.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm all set.
Hi, my name's Deb Tustin. I've been a resident probably for 11 years now, mostly at Simpkins Schools. I think if this event was a source of relief for so many needs, I'd probably support it. But clearly this is an attempt to an event to hold Simpkins Schools residences once again at the mercy of functions that take away our space for parking, adding live music, concert, amplification system, none of which adds enchantment to living at 134 Old Main. Would you welcome that noise in your neighborhood? All alcohol license beginning at 10:30 a.m. How do you control the supplies to minors? If I leave my handicapped space to do errands, visit family, etc., what prevents festival attendees taking a handicapped space that I need and use every day? Events like this, people who are totally with the festival activities should not be subject to the noise, the booze, and no parking options. Can you find another venue? Apparently the old drive-in property's out of it, tasty buffet area. But why in my backyard? I mean, the Simpkin Residences is a very nice, quiet area. We have these things come in on weekends. And again, the biggest problem is we have no parking. And people get in there and we say to them, well, that's where I usually park, in that handicap space. And they go, and they just go off and walk. So there's a lot of things that I think, and not trying to be detrimental about the activity itself. I mean, I think it's great, but it's like not in my backyard. You gotta be able to find another place. We have the baseball kids, which are great to come in. We kind of almost have them figured out now where they should park, so they don't just whip into a parking space and somebody gets out with a cane to try to get to their place. It's just that area of Simpkins School should not have to cater to projects that go on. That's not how it was built. That's not what I pay for. So essentially, that's my feelings. Any comments? Anybody?
I had a question.
Go do it.
You have to go over there, I think.
Well, it's a simple question.
Don't take your canes.
Nah, I don't need a cane.
Just be careful.
Sue Pelayo, Simpkins School 2. retiree, and we like it there, and it is quiet. Again, it's the parking that seems to be the issue here, of course. I guess my question is this something you were planning to have every single year in the same location, or are your plans in the future to go back to the movie theater place where they're working, you said, right?
I can answer that. I mean, our plan was to go back to the drive-in this year. We actually submitted the paperwork very early on, and we were told that space was not available. And we did look at other locations, but this was the only one that was practical for us. So the plan is... I'm sorry?
What other locations?
There are some other locations throughout the town. I'm not really able to disclose. There were some private property areas that we were looking at, but there really wasn't anything that would have worked for us for this year. So the plan is to do it this year with the goal of moving back to the drive-in because it's being designed as an event space specifically to host functions like this.
So there's a possibility that next year, next June or whatever, you could move back into that space as long as...
That would be the plan, unless we can come across unless we can find a way to work with the town to find a permanent site that we might be able to take a lease out on, which is something we'd love to do. But for the time being, we're using those spaces.
Well, both fields actually are in proximity to the museum, too, the Pirate Museum. And I know when the, tourists come, that's one of the first places they want to go. So, but that was my only question, to see if you had plans to put it back to the movie. It depends on what they end up doing.
Currently our intention, yes, is to move
Okay.
back to that drive-in site.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Question that came up was about parking, and I believe that he discussed that the parking is going to be behind Bridgewater, not at the school. And in terms of the alcohol service, everybody who's serving alcohol is tip certified, and so they've had good control when it's been at the drive-in site, and I would assume that they would continue to have good control at the school site.
Thank you, Peter. No, I don't want to get a back and forth. I'll let you speak, but not
It's not,
tit for. I want to talk to him for a minute. So you're familiar with the Seaside Festival?
I am.
So in terms of the parking layout, the areas that are going to be used, how are they similar to or different from what occurs at the Seaside Festival?
Certainly.
Give me a visual on that. So, yes, they parked, I'm just giving you an example. Yes, they parked at Town Hall. Yes, they will be allowed to park at Town Hall this time. Or Town Hall has let us use that area to charge for parking. No, they will not be doing that this time. Give me an idea of that comparison.
Of course. So the plan for the parking right now is, as I mentioned, is to barricade the road going over to Simpkins so that people are not traveling through that space, and to put signage out by the entrance of the Bridgewater campus that is pretty much right across from Town Hall that says that's the entrance to the festival. We will have people with flags directing the traffic to the parking area behind the building.
The parking area that's currently used by the collaborative in the school.
Yes, that parking area, and we have permission to use the small field, which is beyond that, for additional parking. There's the paved parking area, and then there's a field behind that, which we have permission to park in that as well. The differences in attendance, I would say the difference between us and Seaside Festival is really sort of a one weekend event, so they get everything kind of in there at once, whereas we're spread out, so we don't see the same kind of numbers on a daily basis. So I'm not anticipating the need for a great deal of overflow. If there is, they would be directed across the street to the town hall parking lot.
Is anybody going to be in control of or manning the town hall facilities, or is that kind of open season?
So I have parking attendants who will be directing people from the street to park and directing people to where they should park once they're on the grounds. If that area fills up, then we would move those parking attendants out of that space and to direct them across the street if we needed to use that space. But as I said, I don't anticipate having to.
You don't anticipate needing the town hall space?
I don't think so. The field is more than adequate, and based on the parking that we had at the drive-in site when we used that, it's pretty much the same footprint in terms of the space that those vehicles would take up. I don't expect us to need much more space than that. And we are going to be using the spaces directly in front of the main gate, directly in front of the school. There are a series of parking spaces, I forget the number of them, but those are going to be designated for handicap parking for people who need accessible parking or access to the front gate from there. That won't be general parking. General parking will be directed towards the back of the building.
And is the back parking paid parking?
Yes,
How much is that
it's $5 a car.
per day?
Yes.
Dorcas, I'm going to go to you.
No other questions, thank you.
Mark?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, there was a lady that wanted to be heard. Why don't you go up to the microphone again?
Sorry. Again, I'm Mary Jane Zanakis. I live at Simpkins. What are you doing for trash?
We've already arranged, we were actually going to have a dumpster dropped off by a local supplier, but we've actually arranged with the collaborative to make use of their dumpster, and we're going to pay for the extra poles. So we'll be,
Okay.
we have grounds crew who'll be working the grounds and picking up the trash. We'll have trash barrels throughout the space, and then each night we pull the trash, or as needed, we pull the trash, put it in the dumpster, and then the dumpster company will come and take it.
Where is the dumpster going?
The dumpster's already there. It's the one that's on site at the school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're using the same vendor?
Correct, yeah. And they gave us permission to use their dumpster as long as we pay for the removal service when they pull the trash, so that's what we'll do.
I understand. Anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion on this application?
I make a motion to approve the special all alcohol license and special entertainment license, Christopher Schultz, Cape Cod Pirate Festival at Joshua Sears Memorial Field, Assessors Map 50, Parcel 130, South Yarmouth, Massachusetts.
I second.
For the
We have a
dates
motion, and we
listed.
have a second. Is there any further discussion? Is the board prepared to vote on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed signify by saying nay. So the ayes have it, 4-0. One member is absent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'll be out there with my camera taking pictures of people illegally parking.
We have now we'll get, when Dorcas gets back, the next item is going to be a communications discussion on fire, police, regional dispatch. We'll hold off on that for another 5 minutes or so till Dorcas gets back. So how'd you do, okay?
Yeah,
Did you get everybody
these are, yeah.
congealed?
We were meeting with the program director for a major funding source.
Good.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't have a coffee.
Thank you, folks. Very nice to meet you. Okay.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too, I'm very interested. I mean, we need to have this kind of thing.
Just completely open mind.
There you go. There you go. Cold or allergies? allergies? Allergies, huh?
Killing me.
I think she's allergic to me.
Yes, it's very high alert today.
Been bad. Sounds worse than it is, so I apologize
No,
in advance.
not much you can do about it. I know, at the Seaside Festival. I parked over where he's talking about, there's a lot of parking over there. Well, that's why I ended up parking.
Okay, we are ready.
No, Mr. Chairman, before we jump right in, I just want to say that we've sort of organized this discussion to have kind of a two-step process that we were interested in hearing from our communications team, which I'd like to welcome Paul Chaffee, IT Director, Laurie Sullivan, our Communications Director, to have a discussion about the public outreach template to support the public policy decision-making of the town generally, and some very exciting items that they're going to be going over. And then we also have our chiefs on hand to talk about some of the immediate next steps for the regional emergency communications, outreach efforts, and hopefully meld those all together. So with that, I hand it over to the communications team.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the board for having us tonight to review the town's communication program. I'm Paul Chaffee, Director of Information Technology.
Lori Sullivan, the Communications Manager.
Last year, the Select Board presented to the town their goals for the year. And goal number 3 was to develop a communication plan and increase the civic engagement and implement of a communications program. That was the beginning of the town's communication plan. On September 2023, Laurie Sullivan was hired as our first communications manager, charged with the development of Yarmouth's communications plan. Tonight, we would like to quickly summarize why that was necessary, how it was implemented, how it's measured, and finally, how it can be applied and leveraged on tonight's topic, the Regional Emergency Communications Center. Starting with why we need to look, starting with the why, we need to take a quick look back at the really not so distant future. And let's take a look at from where we came from and to where we're going now. In the past, we had press corps that was sitting here in this room during our meetings, and they would report on the good and the bad. Cable stations had a higher viewer following, and press releases carried a lot of weight, both with the press and with media outlets. But things have changed. Today, in order to get our message out, we have to adopt new ways of communication. The almost non-existent local press has been replaced with websites and social media. Our own Channel 8 has had to evolve to include rebroadcasting on YouTube and Facebook, as well as streaming to reach more people. Press releases are bolstered with posts, rails, stories, and memes. Local media coverage is only being done by a few brave souls in a very limited quantity. This is why the Select Board has this as one of their top 6 priorities, and thus the creation of the Comprehensive Communication Plan. This plan is flexible and robust enough to communicate to our residents information about recycling, such as our program that we have, Recycling with Rovi, and it's also able to handle more complicated programs, such as our wastewater construction program. It's always evolving, and tonight we hope to show you how much it has impacted our community. Laurie is now going to walk through some of the steps used to gather and communicate information.
So the first thing that we do when we attack a communication issue, a message that we want to put out to the public, is we listen to the ask. So we start by actively listening to the needs, goals, and expectations of the stakeholder. What is the timeline? How heavy is the lift? The next thing that we do is we come up with a plan. We spend time outlining a communication plan that aligns with those needs and those goals. We consider what messaging platforms will work best, and we focus on what the key messages are, who is the audience, what is the frequency of the message, and is it something that has to be shared daily, weekly, or monthly, or once. When we develop that plan, once we have that framework, we develop detailed content materials that fit that specific ask. We tailor all messages to resonate with the audience, and we take into consideration what style it will have. Will it be a casual or serious message? Both are delivered, obviously, differently. Then there's engagement. Before we launch the communication project, we encourage two-way communication by inviting feedback, suggestions, and questions from the stakeholder. After the plan is launched, we use feedback received through the engagement process and make the necessary adjustments to improve the communication effectiveness. We address any concerns or issues raised promptly and transparently. And finally, the fun part is measuring the results. We use metrics and analytics to measure the impact of our communication efforts. Were we successful? What did we hear from the public? Did we achieve our goal? What could we have done differently and better? We analyze the results to identify areas of improvement and success and use this data to refine future communication strategies.
Communication of information is vital to a healthy community. Transparency of issues helps ensure a well-informed constituency. We kind of liken communication to a puzzle. There are a lot of pieces that make up the whole picture. In communication, the pieces of the puzzle are tools, such as meetings, videos, interviews, flyers, tweets, reels, stories, signs, posters. It goes on and on, frequently asked questions. So there's a lot of them. Here we have listed the tools that we use to communicate out to our town residents, as well as thousands of others, as you'll soon see. These tools also help us to measure our efforts by documenting how many folks have seen the information we post and give the people a way to comment and have and voice their opinions as well as their concerns.
So in order to get the results that we are looking for in a communication strategy, there are lots of platforms that we use to deliver our message. No matter how big or how small the ask is, these pieces are always part of the communications puzzle. The first piece of the puzzle is almost always the website. The website serves as a central hub for all town information, including projects, meetings, election information, and press releases. With over 1 million views and nearly 370,000 users, it is clear that residents rely heavily on this platform for their information. The next 3 pieces of the puzzle revolve around social media engagement. We will start with Instagram. Despite being relatively new, our Instagram account has shown promising growth with 158 followers and significant reach in the past 90 days. Here we share reels, stories, memes, and posts that we feel will connect with Yarmouth residents and tie in with the message that we are trying to deliver. While Instagram is growing, Twitter remains a valuable platform as well for reaching a broader audience and gathering feedback. But it has been Facebook that has been the standout social media performer for the town, experiencing a 54% growth in followers, reaching more than 7,100 followers, and engaging with a substantial audience of more than 149,000 people. We are always sharing, updating, and carefully selecting the content that we put on our pages. And our use of videos, photos, graphics, memes, and press releases on social media have been effective in engaging the audience, especially our younger demographic. To give you an example, the Notify Me campaign for wastewater, which included a meme, had 4,700 views on Facebook and more than 1,600 on Instagram. This meme was instrumental in getting more residents to sign up for Notify Me. And it worked so well that we, in fact, ran out of licenses, and we are in the process of getting more for the town. Live events and educational videos have also played a part in our messaging, whether it is the execution of a town meeting or the organizing of a groundbreaking or the production of an informative video. We have made sure to leave no stone unturned. Leveraging platforms like Channel 8 and YouTube to broadcast these events and to showcase our video productions helps us reach a wide audience, as well as fostering transparency. If the Select Board wants a peek into how the residents feel on a particular topic, all you have to do is sign up for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and look for the comments. You can also do that when you go to our YouTube page. The comments usually follow all of the town meetings. It is a good gauge to see how people are feeling about a certain topic. And finally, we are really excited about the upcoming town app and hope that it will further streamline communication by centralizing information and providing notifications and alerts directly to residents' mobile devices, giving them accessibility at their fingertips.
And before we wrap up, I want to just reiterate some of the numbers we just presented. Facebook is up 54% to over 7,100 followers. Visits are up 107.9% to 32,000 plus visits. Our reach has grown 67.5% to over 149,000 people. But the most impressive thing for me was our website. Year to date, we've had 307,000 unique visitors to the website and over 1,170,000 views. People are listening to what's happening in Yarmouth. People are turning to Facebook, Channel 8, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and our website for information. I believe a good indication of this was just at our town meeting last week. Look how smoothly the meeting went. People knew what was on the warrant and had good information and had solid information on each article to make a well-informed decision. If you want to know what's going on in town, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or visit our website. The Regional Emergency Communications Center proposal will be supported by the same communication public outreach template, and we'll make sure that the public is fully aware of what's going on. And we just want to thank you for this time to share with you some of those figures and numbers.
May I ask a question?
You may.
First of all, I want to say you did a great job for town meeting. I mean, all those little video presentations were great. It's, personalizing the whole thing, I think, getting the information out. But kind of, tonight we heard from Vita Morris asking about candidates night, and I did bring that up. Well, just interestingly, while you've been speaking, I went to the town website, and I put into search candidates night. And what comes up is State Representative Candidates Night Flyer, October 13th, 7 p.m. So it doesn't have the most current information. And I'm just thinking, this is where I'm talking about, different things that we have, like Candidates Night, something really quick that needs to be on the web. Okay, it's decided today that we're going to have it on the 15th at 6. How soon can we get it up and on the website so people can at least know where and when?
Sure, that's a great question. And to answer it, it's simply this. When we first know about it, it gets immediately posted at several different places. It goes on the website, and it'll be pushed out at social media at all levels. This is the first I've heard of candidates, and I know we've heard about the talk about it taking place, but we haven't been notified by it. Once we are notified, and the date is such a short time period, we'll make, Laurie is on it immediately, using all our resources to make sure folks hear and understand what's going on.
It'll be up tomorrow.
And it will be up tomorrow for sure.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I know that Candidates Night is run by the Chamber, not by the town, but we link to the Chamber's website, so we should be able to, if I'm searching, and I searched, just like Dorcas did, I couldn't find it, we should be able to find the stuff from, that's on the Chamber's website too, because we pay them a ton of money to help link and run, communication within the town. In addition, Ms. Morris asked about the the aliens that were staying with us, several of which are citizens of the United States from Puerto Rico. And I had received notification in a couple of different places, but I couldn't find it on our website, the town website. And I know early on we were posting updates on a regular basis, and I didn't see anything. So, that's...
We did put out a press release that they were being moved on the 23rd and 24th, and it should be up on the website. I know we did. Bob and I worked together on a press release specifically for that.
Right. I believe I saw the press release, but not on the website, and I couldn't find it. Maybe the search functions need to be enhanced in some way, shape, or form. And Lori and Paul, I'll leave that to you because that's over my pay grade.
Well, there was a conversation this week as we're looking at this new application that's going out with the engine of Civic Plus, which is our web hosting company. And these are some of the topics that we did have the discussion with. How do we optimize our search? How do we take the data that we presented tonight, and how do we leverage that to make it easier and quicker for folks to get the information that they need? And that's one of the reasons why delivering to the handheld, because we're looking at 48% of everybody working our website are using their mobile phone. So we're moving ahead with this new app to help that situation, as well as refined search engines. One other comment I do want to make. One of the things about communication, it doesn't matter who folks are or what they do, such as the chamber and the town. We have started to work closely with the chamber, with communications. One of the big things is wastewater. We just got out of a meeting with them Friday. How can we help them notify all of the chamber's members of information? So we work closely with Mary. We also work, something else that's happened since September. One of the things we spoke with, for example, the police and fire have great websites that they utilize. And what we weren't doing was cross-pollinating some of that information. So Laurie takes many times in our social media, we do likes to make sure that folks are seeing what's on the police and what's on fire websites also. And we're doing that with many of the departments who have their own website. The process is to over-communicate anything that we have. At one time, and before Laurie was here, we would have we put certain things on Facebook, certain things on Twitter, certain things here to keep it in its own little isolation. Now, if one thing comes up, it goes across all of our communication. It goes across all the websites, all the tools that we use. Everybody will get an announcement.
One last comment. I don't see TikTok on here. And I realize there's our good friends in Washington want the Chinese company to sell it, and TikTok has filed a lawsuit saying it's unconstitutional and stuff. But that's one of the largest growing social media sites in the world right now, and I would think that if it's considered kosher, if you will, that we should be linking to that as well.
Let me put my IT hat on for a moment. Due to some of the known cybersecurity risks with the application itself, until it can be proven, we hesitate going to TikTok for the cybersecurity reason only.
Again, over my pay grade, and a comment like that I take very, very much to heart. And if there's any kind of issue like that, no, you do not want to be involved in.
Believe me, we've looked at it. We have looked at it and taken a deeper dive and we're constantly reviewing any type of social media application that might help us. Reason why we didn't have Instagram up to I think 3 months ago. The reason why we did it, we're missing a demographic that we really wanted to reach, who use Instagram. And we saw that it worked simply when we put out one meme for
Notify Me.
Notify Me. I mean, 1,600 hits on that was pretty quick and pretty high, pretty fast. So we'll analyze any type of media that we can use to our benefit.
One last comment. I've seen a lot of comments recently from DPW about road closures and work, the stuff they've done. But I haven't seen any of that stuff on the website, but I've seen it noted outside, probably on Facebook, because I do look at Facebook. Is that something that would be...
It is actually on the website.
I'm commenting very positively on DPW that this stuff is out there and I've seen it.
Yeah, we're working hand in hand with DPW. As a matter of fact, we have a collaboration with Waze. Currently, knowing that we have an issue, we're going to have a lot of street closures. We actually can edit Waze in our local area and keep it up to date. So it is on the website also. If you go to wastewater and you look at the contract, they're broken. Right now, there's only 2 contracts functioning. If you look at each of the contracts, you have Waze and you have all that information located on that page.
Right. Okay, you just told me how to get there. I should be able to go to the website and go road closures and take me to it. I don't.
Search
I
engine is
shouldn't.
we're working on.
Shouldn't have to go. Shouldn't have to go and search. Specifically, it should be. Again, that was my comment about opening up. Your search function and stuff.
Sure. Well taken. And we're working on that. The other thing is the new app will help facilitate those pushes down quickly to the handheld device.
And last comment, I think all of this is very positive to move forward with this stuff, and I'm looking forward to the implication of all of this.
Thank you, Peter. Mark?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. For the folks that might be watching at home, just a quick reminder that, it was this board that really insisted on having an overall communications upgrade, having a communications plan, having a communications director, and having a real emphasis and focus on developing tools and technologies, improving our website, and improving our overall effort in terms of keeping the public informed about what's going on. So it's always good to get an update in terms of how we're doing, how we're working on it. So, but for folks that are following this is all happening because we insisted on it. And we have an administrator that's been very diligent in making sure that our goals and our initiatives are being implemented. I think it's great that we've got very capable people at the helm in this effort. When I was first elected to the board, I used to complain about Channel 8 being the sex offender channel because that was the only stuff that was on the channel. It was basically information about sex offenders. There was really nothing on it that gave you any insight in terms of what Yarmouth was all about as a community, aside from, the public meetings that we would hold. So I applaud any and all efforts to turn the Channel 8 into a more robust programming for things to help people understand what's going on, not just in terms of official government, but in terms of where government and the community overlap. And I think by using it in recent years to help people get educated on some of the things that we're doing at town meeting, I think has been a helpful addition. And I think the comments that you made, Paul, in the very beginning about why we as a board insisted on doing this is because of the changes in the regular media. We used to have select board meetings and have two reporters here and usually a story the next day. I can recall, not too long ago when the Cape had 2 TV stations, Channel 11 and Channel 58. Don Moore had the wisdom to invest in a Channel 58, and that was here for a while. So sometimes we would have 2 reporters, a radio person, and 1 or 2 cameras in the room. And if we had something really important, who knows who else you might see here. So the whole business of communicating to the public and helping inform the public has changed dramatically in recent years. And I think we just have to realize we're going to be playing catch up in many cases. We're just not going to be, unless we get into the newspaper business, but I don't see that happening. But I think it's really challenging for us. And that's why I think it's good to come periodically and have these discussions so that we can explore ways that we can, or explore new ways and different ways on how we can get the word out in terms of what we're doing. It is a huge challenge. The other challenge with respect to communication is what I call public involvement. One of the things that you'll notice is that when we do public hearings on some of our decisions, we will ask the administrator for copies of emails. Now this is a relatively new phenomenon, right? Email, at least in a broader sense. But now when we make decisions, the chair is asking, what's the email traffic on it, and we get copies of emails. And now, I think what we're going to have to start thinking about is when we use other forms of technology that provide input or comment on decisions that are up for review and public engagement, we need to figure out how do we catalog that information? How do we, if we're going to use these tools to invite comments, how do we collect that information and make that part of the administrative record? So when the board is looking at having to make a decision and having public involvement, we have not just emails, but we have information about public concerns from a variety of sources. I think that's going to be the next challenge for our IT communications team, so that when, in the near future, when we take up, let's say, a decision on, this regional dispatch center or any other decision, the library, we want to make sure that we're hearing from the whole cross-section of the community. And it's good that we get this, because, just the traditional normal form of holding a meeting, holding a hearing, and almost demanding or inviting people to come to the podium and stand up and speak is just one very narrow way of hearing from the public. It's an important one, nonetheless, but it's a very, very narrow one. There are other people that prefer to use other forms of engagement. So I think it's good to do that. The other thing that I think we need to do is also, when we talk about stakeholder engagement, there are going to be times when we actually want to, rather than wait for the stakeholders to emerge, almost go after stakeholders, identify stakeholders, go through a process of identifying who they might be, and in some cases engaging them, bringing them in, and inviting them to participate. That's another challenging area. So I'm glad that tonight we're doing a quick review of some of our tools, and I look forward to the next discussion on how we're going to integrate some of these tools and utilize them for this regional emergency communications dispatch center. So I'm ready for that, Mr. Chairman, when you are.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I don't want to repeat everything Mark did, but I'm in general accord with his statements, both in terms of the problem in messaging, the problem in getting the word out to the public, what is being done, and what is being done to coordinate these messages throughout the various avenues available to us, and what are the challenges that lie ahead. I'm glad this was presented in a puzzle format, because that's really where we are. It's a very realistic metaphor. However, I think that, going back in terms of the history of all this, what Mark said with the virtual disappearance of print media, you had to start somewhere. We had to start somewhere in terms of alternative means of communication, and I don't think in the best of all possible worlds you're going to put through some instant, well-coordinated, well-synchronized. It's going to be kind of hit and miss for a while, because you're trying to do business as you go along. You're not in the laboratory experimenting with what's the most effective. We got to get this word out on this issue. We got to get the word out on this issue. And you do what you can. But now I think you're taking a step back and looking at this through the right perspective as to, what are the challenges? How have we met them? How can we do it better? And what are the challenges that remain that have not been met yet? And like Mark, I'm very impressed so far with what the work has been done by you folks and under the management of our town administrator. And I look forward to this process evolving successfully over time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So with that, we're still evolving the overall outreach on regional communications. We have outlined some next steps, and we have the. Right, these ones.
There may be some value, Bob, in just having everybody here at the table. I would recommend that Lori stay and Paul stay, because this is really, it involves everybody, if that's okay.
We can sit back here.
Paul, could you sit at the table by the mic, please?
Absolutely.
Right on the hot seat, Paul.
Right there. No, because there's both substance and the other aspects of this we got to get at. And I'll say right off the bat, our first messaging challenge is in terms of the subject, right? We're calling it an emergency communications center, yet I see other slides where we're calling it a regional dispatch center. So that's one of the things we can work on in terms of what we're going to call this topic.
So now that I've got the remote, I've got the power, and I like that. So what we want to talk about are some of the regional dispatch outreach, next steps, critical issues that we hope to solve and work with, and it'll be interesting to talk about how that fits into the puzzle matrix of outreach that we've talked about through communications. And first and foremost, for members of the Board of Selectmen, requested a tour of a successful emergency operations center, and we have that set up for May 15. We're going to be taking a tour of the Old Colony Regional Emergency Communications Center and meeting with their center director to talk about how they implemented that program, how it serves the communities, and that is scheduled for May 15. And we're going to meet at the Yarmouth PD at 9:50, try to get on the road by 10 o'clock, and I think we'll have transportation aligned for that day. Yes, sir.
The election is coming up the week after, and there's going to be two new board members, and I think you need to have either postpone this one or have a second one so the new board members can see what's going on as well.
I have communicated with the director of the Rock up in Duxbury, and this is our first tour that we're going to do. And I told him that there would probably be a follow-up, and he said he would accommodate that for us.
Good. Thank you.
So that's our first step in, and also working with the communications team. What we're doing right now is creating a project website that is going to have all of the relevant information surrounding the issue of the emergency communication. And we're also going to include a frequently asked questions piece, and we're going to fit that into the matrix of our social media to try to drive people to share information at that website. So we're going to ramp up that, and we've got additional reports in now that we feel will create a very interactive form of information that demonstrates a lot of the issues associated with the emergency communications. And in addition to that, we're going to work on an in-person educational forum, and we're going to support that also through the matrix, through the website, through the social media, and we're going to be requesting comments and suggestions. And I think that this brings to bear one of the critical issues that surrounds, I think Laurie best described the slide that breaks down each issue and each outreach project that we go off on, and I think that do you want to go now?
After you finish your comment, I've got a comment.
Okay, great. Now, each individual project is unique, especially each public policy initiative that comes before the Board of Selectmen for decisions. And it's not a simple process that's one size fits all. I think what's critical, what we've learned in our sessions since we've opened up these discussions, is that the standard features that stay the same are those puzzle pieces, and it's how they're implemented that really shapes the issue. And a perfect example is when you get into a complicated policy issue such as the emergency communications. It does not lend itself to a simple survey process. You can't ask people in the community, do you favor having a regional emergency communications? It makes no sense whatsoever. What people need to be engaged around are the issues of the excellence in our emergency response in the community. And I think that the values that these professionals hold line up kind of with the values of the community in terms of people are looking for the highest level of experience with emergency communications, the fastest response time, the most professional response. And those are the issues that what we want to engage local residents around is evaluating our current emergency communications system, which not a lot of people, quite frankly, know the details about, and organizing around potential benefits, potential concerns, issues with a new system, a regional system, what may be gained, what may be at risk, and involve people in discussions around those points. And when we're able to present, I think the largest issue is to present this technical information in ways that members of the public can understand. It's not, just huge, dense reports, breaks down the various issues, opens up lines of communication and a back and forth that enables local residents to be in a position to have comments to the board, to the chiefs that represent viewpoints, and I think that the overall feeling is that by engaging local residents around that discussion of the quality of services and the response times, that's when we'll get the most effective feedback on an issue like this, which is a little different than, say, for example, the way we approached the Grays Beach, where we were being inundated with, people from out of town and other areas, too many vehicles in a small space, and that had to be managed. And we, were able much more easily to register residents' concerns around those issues, whereas on the emergency communications, a lot of it is the presentation of information so that people better understand what the challenges are there. So.
My comment is regional emergency communication. You've got Town of Yarmouth, Sandwich, and you've got the seal of the Town of Barnstable. It's misleading in and of itself because it's only the metropolitan district known as Hyannis. And I think that's very important because it's just Hyannis right now, correct?
No, it's the Barnstable Police Department and Hyannis Fire.
Okay, so but that should be shown, very very quickly that it's this is what we're covering. We're not covering the entire town of Barnstable. For part of it, yes, part of it, no. Just make sure that those details of what we're actually covering. Because someone could say, well, are we covering all of Sandwich, or are we leaving out Forestdale? Because all the towns have little villages, and I realize that Barnstable is an interesting way they run some of their stuff.
Okay, and other outreach steps, and also suggested by the board at the last meeting, we've engaged the Finance Committee. I believe the chairman is here, although I don't have the best line of sight. Thank you, sir, for being here. The Finance Committee has jumped right in both feet. We provided them a tremendous amount of detailed information, and they're conducting their own analysis and will be reporting back to the Board of Selectmen on their findings, independently, but as part of the overall presentation of information. And we hope to supplement all of our outreach with some of the data that the Finance Committee is able to uncover in their investigation and report. So we're very happy to have them on as kind of critical stakeholders in our overall public process. And
Before we move on to that, before we move on, Mr. Chairman, is the Finance Committee going to be able to participate in our field visits as well? Will they be given the opportunity to join us? My hope is that as we go through this process, they have the same information that we have, that we're all working from the same data set, the same information set, so that when they're presenting their recommendations, we have a general sense. I don't want to speak for the Finance Committee, but I wouldn't surprise me if the chairman or others may actually have an interest in accompanying us, or those of us, if there's going to be 1 or 2 field visits. I think there may be some value in it. So I just want to put that out there as something to think about and consider.
Richard Simon, Chair of the Finance Committee. Yes, indeed, that was one of my follow-up notes.
so if you can make it, or any members on the 15th, you're invited.
Can I comment on something? I know we're jumping around, and forgive me for this, but I think the town administrator made an incredibly important point in the last slide. Can you just go back to the last slide, Bob? He said something that I think is something that we need to really zero in on. What's the goal of this? And he made the point that, and I'm sure it's based on discussions with the police chief and the fire chief, but it's looking at coming up with the most effective response to emergencies, right? It's getting to the scene, responding, getting engaged, and doing it quicker, to do it more efficiently, right? And I think that's something that, if that's the principal goal, I think that needs to be, we need to figure out a way to stress that in the communications related to this initiative. What is the goal of this? In the past, for those of us that have been sort of hearing this conversation about dispatch for many, many years, it was always, the conversation was, can we get police and fire in Yarmouth to be in the same room, to be in the same place, and to work together, to be nice, to do joint dispatch. That's always been the conversation. So you need to understand that in the community, as we're communicating, people, the frame of reference is very different now. We're now talking about a regional center. But one of the things I don't think we've ever really talked much about is the goal of a communication center or a dispatch center. The goal being finding a more effective and efficient way to respond to emergencies. That's the goal. If that's the goal, I think it's important to emphasize that. And then when we look at the metrics or make comparisons, because we're all hearing of the other options out there, the sheriff wanting to expand, or maybe us doing something on our own, you have to get to the point where, yes, savings are important, there's no question about that, and those efficiencies, but also I think there's going to be a huge interest in that goal. And so I think, I'm glad Bob mentioned that, because it's rarely mentioned, and I'm not being critical of anybody, but it's rarely mentioned. And I think it's an important point that we can't lose sight of. So thank you, Bob, for bringing that up.
I just want to add that our response times now are good. So we're, I don't know if we're going to see a huge increase in that, but I think if you go back to the presentation that the fire chief and I made, and I can let the fire chief speak, like his the word you were looking for, the co-concerns of the co-occurrence of calls, rather, almost 70%, they're handling multiple calls. So what a regional center will do for us, it will have more people in the room at the same time to handle those calls and take the workload off of the fire department right now, because PD runs 2 dispatchers and a supervisor, FD runs 1. So we don't want to lose sight of that as well. Like, we're looking to put a communication center together that's going to alleviate some of the problems that we're seeing right now, where they're getting inundated with calls, because if you have a fire dispatcher sitting next to a police dispatcher, it's going to pick things up a little bit, but I don't want the public to think that we're going to decrease our call response tremendously by doing this. It's going to improve our overall performance.
Can I walk you through something, Chief? In my previous role as the director at Heatherwood Senior Living Community in town, I made frequent calls, I and my staff, to 911. And when we would call in with, let's make the example, I have someone that has fallen and has fallen, and I dial 911, we would hear, this is 911, what is your emergency? And you start to say, well, I've got somebody that's fallen, and then they go, we're going to transfer you to medical. Please hold on. We eventually at Heatherwood knew that the minute we were hearing 911, what's your emergency, we just said medical to immediately take us over. But this would be one step that would be removed, correct, with the regional center?
No. The regional center, well, it depends on how the center is set up. So if you look at Holbrook, if you call into Holbrook, they have call takers and then they have dispatchers. And the efficiencies you see in there is the call taker is the one that's taking the actual telephone calls, triaging the information, and sending it over to the appropriate dispatcher, which then leaves the dispatcher free. So I'll use police, for example. If the police dispatcher is working and the call taker is handling the calls coming in, that police dispatcher is now free to just handle the radio traffic. And I would assume it would be the same for the fire. As 911 calls are coming in, you have someone answering that call, taking the information, then pushing it over so the person who is talking to either the police department on the police side or the fire department on the fire side, you're not trying to do two things at once. You're not trying to answer the call and then dispatch information. So as they're putting the information into the screen, the other dispatchers are reading it, and that's the information that they're relaying out. So it's going to be interesting to go to the Rock and Duxbury and see how they handle it. And because right now we have that model in Yarmouth. We have, just for the police department, we have a dispatcher that's designated to answer the phone, and we have a dispatcher that's designated to use the radio. Now, as call volume increases, those tasks commingle. But when they come in, they pick, I'm either in position 1 or position 2, and that's how they've set it up. That's how they like to do it. So you have a call taker and you have a dispatcher. It also streamlines who's entering information into the computer so they're not stepping on each other when multiple calls come in. So that's how we do it in a very small scale. It would just be a larger scale where you would have up to 6 or 7 dispatchers working Barnstable PD, Yarmouth PD, Hyannis Fire, Yarmouth Fire. And that's where you see the efficiencies, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where you see the efficiencies in moving to this model.
But going back to myself or my staff at the time at Heatherwood, when we would call and hear 911, what is your emergency? In this new process, we wouldn't have to be starting to go medical or police. We'd just identify what our problem is, and internally, your center would be determining where that dispatch should go to. So actually, there would be less confusion for the person that's making the 911 call. Because, like for instance, now, instead of going medical, I'd just be going, we've got someone that's fallen. The information would be taken, and then that would be dispatched to the police or the fire. So actually, from the public's perspective, it would be much easier.
The public should not see much of a change, because what we see now too with calls is someone says medical, our dispatchers, police dispatchers will stay on the line to listen to the call, because not everything that comes in a medical is strictly a medical call. We have people that call in and say medical, transfer it over, and there's a car accident and somebody's injured. So we are now sending people. But the flow may change a little bit, but it's the increased efficiencies by having call takers and then dedicated police dispatchers and dedicated fire dispatchers working hand in hand, actually in the same room, so that if fire gets overwhelmed, the police dispatcher can literally turn around and start working. We don't have that relationship now because we are dealing with phone systems. So if fire gets overwhelmed, PD could be relatively quiet and fire's working a couple ambulance calls, and even a structure issue, we might have someone down there at traffic, but they're getting hammered, and we have 2 dispatchers sitting there that can't help them. This is now going to take that away, and we're going to have people in the same room working together.
Yeah, no, and it's something I like to stress. I think we've all said it, is all of our dispatchers do a fantastic job. I think we've seen the results of that over the last couple of years. They do a great job. What we're hoping to do is give them the ability to do a better job. And a lot of that translates, at least in the ambulance side and the fire side, is exactly that, where they do emergency medical dispatch, where they're giving instructions on medical care and at the same time dispatching vehicles to calls and answering other phone calls and dealing with people at the window. So again, they do a tremendous job. It's just going to allow them to split those tasks a little bit and actually do that part better, and also get the vehicles and keep track of things in a smoother fashion.
Enrique, on the calls on fall, I was reading an article yesterday. A town in Missouri has several old folks' homes, and they're getting so many calls from the old folks' homes that they cannot handle local emergencies. And what they've finally done is they have told the old folks' home, you must hire people that can lift people up from the ground. We cannot handle our local emergencies. Are you finding that this is a problem in Yarmouth? Or is it a potential problem in Yarmouth with a lot of calls to Heatherwood and similar?
Yeah, I think the volume is there. I think it's a demographic thing. I mean, you're putting a lot of people with medical care and obviously who are older, who have a tendency to fall and to have those types of issues. And I think we're handling it at this point. But the other issue is we have had a lot of discussions with those facilities on what they can or cannot do for their patients. I think they have a lot of protocols and legal requirements as to what they can or cannot do based on the staff that they have. They don't have all, I don't want to get too far into the weeds with it, but they don't have all nursing facilities. Sometimes they have like a lower level of care who are there to help or to supervise, but they don't have any medical training. So that's why if they call 911 for help, obviously we have to go.
I made a call last year in Barnstable. A car hit a bicyclist, and there were about 15 or 20 of us. I immediately pulled over, called 911, and the Barnstable, I could hear all the calls coming in off of this same accident and stuff, and oh my God, I don't see how you guys can handle it, some of these calls coming in like that, because I could hear them, and you could hear people, on the radio, calling, and, because they're all calling for the same accident, which is good that they were doing that, but it just has got to call craziness when they're calling in like that, when folks are calling in. It's better that they call in than not, believe me.
Again, I think it's important to be clear on the goals and the problems we're trying to fix. I think that's clear. I appreciate all this information. I just think if we're going to be in the public arena and having the ability to engage the public in this, I think it's really important to be clear on what is it we're really trying to accomplish. What are the problems that we're trying to solve? What's the goal of taking this approach? I think we can say it. We just need to be able to be focused on it. There's so much information that, every time we talk about this, there's just volumes of it. And it's clear that this is a topic that we can either have people's eyes glaze over because it's too overwhelming, or we can find very discrete ways to break it down so it's readily presentable. And at the end of the day, when people hear more about what's going on, they can make sense out of it all. I agree with my colleagues, the complexity, the volume, all the other. You can get a sense that being in this position is incredibly challenging. So I think we need to be able to explain that, both to the new members of the board, ourselves as well, but also to the public. I don't think anybody would dispute your assertion about the call, about how we handle calls. Yarmouth does a great job, but that's now part of the problem. Okay, if we're doing such a great job, why do we need to make a change? The old adage, if it ain't broke, why fix it? That's what we're running up against in part of this conversation. So that's why this is a very challenging exercise, and I'm glad members of the board wanted to put this out there and have a discussion about it, because this is the challenge that we face. How do we have two terrific departments in the town of Yarmouth who are engaged in finding a way to reach yet another standard of excellence and see this approach as a way to get there. So we need to figure out what are our goals, what are we really trying to accomplish here, and what are the problems that we're trying to solve. I would agree with you, Chief, that when you look at the demographics, yes, we have some problems now, but part of this is anticipating the challenges of the future, right? Is that, and you mentioned before, Chief, at the last meeting about just the intensity and the demands that this puts on personnel. I think that's incredibly important information, that the stress, having multiple calls on the same call, all of these things is just all this information. So it's really challenging. And I'm glad we're having this discussion tonight about how we're approaching this, how we're breaking this down, how we work together to present it so it's very digestible, easy to understand, and we can arrive at a decision point within a relatively orderly process in a fairly rapid amount of time.
And the collateral that we can't forget is there will be some savings, which is important. The people that are working the phones, they will now have ability for advancement, which is important. So there are career things that are helpful, and it's going to take stress away. And that was one of the things that I found very important in the discussion a couple of weeks ago, was the stress that would be taken away from the folks that are answering the phones, because there's going to be more people covering and stuff. And I can't remember the figures, but it looked like the potentiality of $2 to $3 to even $4 million worth of savings over a period of time, which is nothing to sneeze about. I was going to make a snide comment, but offset some of the costs from the school, but I wouldn't make a comment like that.
But also the expertise, that as you very wisely were telling us at your presentation, you have a sergeant who is in charge of dispatch, but he's also in charge of other departments at the same time, as opposed to if you have a regional communication system, people, that's what they do. That's what they are trained to do. It becomes much more efficient, and it gives people an opportunity for advancement. The other thing, too, is, and it wouldn't hurt for the folks to know this, and our Finance Committee, of course, would jump in on this as well, is that looking down the road, we're not going to see that monies will be available for an individual 911 system in an individual town, that we've seen that going forward, where the grant monies are going to, where all of that is really looking at it more from a regional perspective. And also that it's tied back into the cell phones, I think shows people that this is money that's going to be around. It's not money that's going to be available this year and next year and then suddenly it's going to disappear. People have been hearing so much about the COVID money and how it was there and then it wasn't there anymore. This is going to be completely different than that, correct?
And just,
sorry, Bob.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to add one thing. As important, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the police chief, but as important as the site visit is to the Rock, I think it would be also very important for you guys to visit our local. Come to the Yarmouth Fire Station and spend a few minutes there. And you
I
can,
have.
It's
impressive.
I'd love for you guys to see it.
The Yarmouth PD myself. Yeah. It's unbelievable. The folks that are there are incredibly talented. Right. No, I can understand there are enormous demands on the personnel. I get it. I get that. But I would, for those that may have not had that opportunity, or for the new people that will be coming in, I would agree with you, Chief. I think it's incredibly important to have that experience.
I have, and I would say that for the 27 years that I was associated with Heatherwood, we had amazing service from both the police and the fire department. Never once were we let down in any way. I mean, it was, and we could throw some tough things at the police and fire department. I can recall one day when we had 5 calls within 1 hour that came out on 911 from Heatherwood. It can happen.
So that's going to be your biggest challenge. You have a large community of people out there that are incredibly impressed with the work that you do, that like what you do, that believe in what you do, that support what you do, and want to help you do what you do. All right, so that's part of the problem, right? because you want to do things better. So we need to be able to paint the picture in terms of what's the problem we're trying to fix, what are we trying to address, what's our goal. So we need to really figure out a way to sort of break down this whole presentation in ways that people can comprehend it, because it would be a different conversation if you weren't doing a good job, right? But because you have such high standards, because you train well, because you're incredibly responsive, that becomes something we need to address. I guess it's a happy problem, would you call it that?
No, this is not a happy problem.
And to the chief's credit, I also want to say, I mean, a big part of the process is really bringing out some of the risks that we face. Tremendously hardworking, highly skilled individuals in all of the departments. These are career people, yet the way we resource, the way we coordinate, the standards that are used, they're not best management practices in this particular industry. The concurrent calls, the problems that we face as the intensity and level of calls continues to increase at a very rapid rate. It really places us at a lot of risk for the future, that, we haven't had the types of communication gaps that lead to a lack of service. The services, people are working overly hard to get it done. And so I've learned a lot from the chiefs throughout this process of some of their goals in terms of having the professional standards and best management practices for the communication for both sides. And I think that there's a very, very compelling argument to make, and Selectman Forrest's comments really hit home on that needs to be brought out of how these actions now set us up in the future for continued excellence and best management practices at a very high level in areas, quite frankly, that are life and death. So I think that that's something that we'll have to focus very strongly. And as the chiefs continue to focus on those performance issues, some of the things that I think could help the overall policy process, we wanted to make a presentation available to the Board of Selectmen involving our town council, who I feel represented the town extremely well in hammering out some of the details of the intermunicipal agreement and how that works to create the partnership, some of the benefits of it, some of the issues associated with the operations committee, but also how it differs from some of the other regional agreements that we have, such as the DY school. It's really a night and day type situation that I think gives us a little bit less risk, and also the opportunity, although it would take a tremendous amount of investment to try to replicate all of this on our own, the idea that the town is not tied to it, that the town determines its own future if it wants to pull out, if it wants to go another direction. But we feel that there's benefits to the town for being in an intermunicipal agreement and how that works. And it was attorney Elizabeth Lydon who had experience with these issues in the past, and I thought brought a great deal to the table. And it was our insistence on having the chiefs represented at the table for all of the performance and protocol issues associated with how dispatching occurs in our community, and a vote on that. So we feel, for the public, but also for the Board of Selectmen, on some of the mechanics of that intermunicipal agreement, how they work, especially, I think, given where there's some new board members coming. Some have a lot of experience in these issues. Others haven't really been too familiar with intermunicipal agreements, how those work. So we'd like to potentially have a presentation and take questions on the specific mechanics of that from a sort of a comparative legal process that, and so that's the intermunicipal agreement. Another item is that we're committing to working closely with our regional team. We talked about keeping everything together and, with the state and the whole funding process. And we have, the grant application that has been filed. And the way the emergency 911 funds are set up is that they place the intermunicipal agreement first, which technically should be, down the road, but they want, before they open up their pocketbook, they want evidence that you have the agreement in place. And we talked about the timing, trying to get this wrapped up by July, but what we're going to be working on to see is if we can get a little more time to, fully vet out a lot of the community outreach. And, we feel potentially where there is an intermunicipal agreement currently between 2 of the 3 members, that may be enough to sustain the state funding while we continue the outreach, and that we can set it up so that hopefully we don't have a really quick drop dead date, but that Yarmouth can do all of the outreach that we need to do to ensure that people fully understand this and that we vet it and we're not under an artificial time crunch. But that's something that we'll be working with the regional team. We've expressed to them our values in terms of the outreach and the board's input, and so we're committed. I just want to say we're committed to that, and we're trying to make that happen and put the timing in association with it. And also, I just want to say, on behalf of the communications team, we've sat, and Sarah's hiding in the back there. You should be up at the table. I guess our table wasn't long enough, but another key participant who has been the person that's been our gatekeeper to supporting the interests and the needs of the current town employees that are performing this function, ensuring that they're automatically offered jobs in the new session. Sarah deserves a tremendous amount of credit. She's been a key person in working on this planning. And since the meeting with the Board of Selectmen, we've had the communication team with Laurie and Paul that sat down with the chiefs and with Sarah and I, and we've run this process through the steps that they've outlined and came up with additional ideas and how to leverage and how to support. And so at this point, I think we're poised that everyone is fully engaged and committed to the outreach steps and working with the Board of Selectmen, working with the Finance Committee. And our idea is to focus on those performance standards issues, outreach, education, and develop a broader community consensus on exactly why an improvement would be needed and how we would work that. So that I think it just some of the next steps in a nutshell.
Okay, anyone have anything else?
My only comment is, now that we've identified all the pieces to the puzzle, have you figured out how you're going to apply the pieces to this?
I think those first steps were taken earlier this week.
Yep.
And
This is the start?
discussions are being had. I'm sorry. Those discussions under, Mr. Whitnow has really brought us into the mix now, and we're listening, and we're developing a plan that draws out the information from the chiefs, who the experts are.
Right.
And then how do we put it into a package to make it available to the public to have comment?
So you're working on that?
We're currently working with the team right now.
So that when we get an update on how that's going to roll out, I'm
Yes,
sure in short
absolutely.
order. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in. It was a great discussion. You guys were well prepared, were well informed, and we look forward to continuing with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item, excuse me, is the annual town meeting recap.
There we go.
You want us to each jump in with?
No.
You don't want us to do it at all?
What we put this item on for is to take a look at what things we think went well with town meeting or did not, what preparatory steps we took that we thought maybe better prepared citizens for participation in the town meeting. Any feedback we got from people, either positive or negative, challenges that still remain with our messaging and the broadcasting of the event, and anything else people feel that are matters of importance that we should address.
Well, that's kind of what I was talking about with some of those items.
Sure.
I have been out and chatting.
We're not limited to that.
Right. I've been out and chatting with folks and just asking for feedback from them on how things went, what they liked and what they didn't like. I heard overwhelming positive about the large screen being used this year instead of the smaller screens, that people really could see what people were talking about, that worked out very well. The placement of the microphones, having microphones both in the front and the back of the room, I heard a lot of positive about that. I also heard a lot of pushback about the fact that there was no egress from the end of the rows in that auditorium. I mean, for folks, if you just kind of visualize the way that that's set up, there's a wall against the seats at the end of the rows. So everyone has to come out to the center. And folks were feeling that it made it difficult, for instance, if they were sitting close to the wall and they had a feeling that they'd like to say something, but then when they looked at how they'd have to climb over all these people to get out of the row, they didn't want to bother people. So it may have curtailed some of the discussion in some of the items, that folks weren't feeling comfortable getting up and speaking. Whereas in our previous auditorium at Mattakey, there are many different exit points on both sides of the aisle for people to be able to hop out and speak if they want to. I also was hearing, again, concerns about the fact that half the room is staircase in the, the upper level. That folks, again, were feeling concerned about going up those stairs. And not just the senior citizens, quite frankly. I was hearing from other people about their concerns on that, too. Like somebody might have had a sports injury or something like that, and they found it a little intimidating. But overall, folks felt that it went much better this year. And as I say, a lot of feedback about that large screen and how fantastic it was this year.
Very good, Peter.
Paul, I think I heard several people, in fact, I know I heard several people saying that Channel 8 wasn't working for at least part of the meeting.
Yes. During some of the communication, they lost power at the desk. A cord was kicked, brought us down. We were down for about 3 minutes with our video, and it took about 12 minutes to get audio back.
Okay, so not great, but not horrible for, you were able to get it back up relatively quickly.
It was well up back in 12 minutes.
Right. There was some discussion about some of the people in the audience getting off track. Could the moderator keep the people to the comments of the article that's in front of them? And I realize, that's a tough road. These are speakers, these are residents that need to speak about something. But if it's offline, you got to reach a point where you got to get back to the article at hand. most of the comments that I heard were very good. Most people like the physical facility. I did hear from a few people about the wall and not being able to get out on one side of the aisle, which made it tough. I was also a little disappointed, this is me personally, that we didn't get a bigger turnout, because we got a very good turnout the first go around, and I'd say that we've got maybe 3/4 of the same number of folks out. My wife doesn't go; she stays and watches at home, and said the video at home was good. She could see, she could hear, she could understand. So those are all positives.
Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I echo the comments that have already been made. The technical side, and I know we look at you on the technical side. A lot of this stuff has nothing to do with the town's end of things, but the sound problem, the video problem. My text messages were going off the roof. People wondering what's going on, what's happening, and it's just yet another town meeting where we have technical problems. And I know we have to be part of a network and a team, and there are others that are involved, but that was a big complaint. I would agree, having the large screen, I think, is a huge help. That's one of the advantages of being in that particular site. There's also the comfort level with some of the seats. The downside is obviously the inability of people to exit from both sides of a row. You're only restricted to getting in and out from one, so you're always inconveniencing somebody. The mics worked well. People could hear one another. And I do think in terms of the commentary, there were moments where perhaps the moderator probably should have said point of order, or someone the comment point of order is not a point restricted to the moderator. If there is a town meeting member, somebody in the town meeting, the body, that wants to raise a point of order, anybody can raise the point of order. I do want to point out that we have a lot of new residents coming in and participating. I notice that every town meeting there are new faces that are coming in. And I think one of the things we need to be cognizant of is not having town meeting be sort of like an insiders meeting. I'm always cognizant of the fact that we should be trying to make it as accessible to the broadest segment of the community as possible. And that's why I heard some complaints about the shortness of the presentations, particularly the school committee presentation. There was very little substantive information that was presented, so I got many comments on that. I also was disappointed in the brevity of the SEAL committee presentation. I think the voters, the people in town meeting deserve to hear more about the work of that committee. And I will say that I was pleased with the wetlands bylaw presentation. That was substantive. In many cases, people do come to town meeting to learn. And part of our job, I'm coming from, this is the adjunct professor of government who believes in civics and has been complaining about the lack of civic education here in Massachusetts. Part of what we do is civics education in nature. Part of what we do is explaining how our democracy works at the local level. Now, I know sometimes those of us that are in the business may be more interested in the outcome of an article, and maybe it's in the interest of some party to make a presentation brief or to the point, and maybe not get into other aspects of a presentation and until a question is raised. But I do think there's a fundamental obligation for those of us who serve the public that we provide the basic information that's necessary. So the short presentations in a number of cases I found very disturbing. I hope it's not a trend. I hope we can correct it in the future. I did receive complaints on those, and I find them very disconcerting. I will once again raise, I like the idea of maybe it's an article that we need to put on the warrant next time where we change the bylaw and require, at least I think this is an issue. I would like to do it. I know it's maybe I'm in the minority, but I think there's a value, because many other towns do this, where the warrant is printed and made available, a few weeks before the meeting, and it's distributed to households with voters. And in Yarmouth, I think it would cost us somewhere in the vicinity of $25,000. And, I'm willing to put that question, as a town meeting article and let the town meeting participants decide whether or not they want the warrant mailed to them and distributed to them. I would put in it like Chatham does and other towns do. There are many other towns in Massachusetts that make the warrant available early, so that the voters have a chance to study it and review it and go over it. But you could add a talent bank form in there. You could add some basics about, our municipal government. Maybe you want to even put the phone numbers of all the key departments in it. There is a way to make that distribution a bit more useful by adding a few pages. So that's still an issue for me in terms of the early distribution of it. I like the fact that we do it by PDF file right now. Now, maybe we need to be more aggressive in the distribution of it, but I do think, given the number of registered voters in the town and the number of households with registered voters, if the warrant were made available to every household with registered voters, I think that I think it provides important information that people ought to have. And I'd like to explore that later on. So those are my comments. I think, to me, it was a mixed bag, some good things and bad things. It's always good to be there to hear what the people have to say. But I think one of the reasons why the previous town meeting, the reason why it was so large is we were talking about ADUs, which is a very, very engaging topic. And there were a number of groups that were actually sending out action alerts, urging people to show up at town meeting to vote one way or the other. Right, so you got a lot of that. So
There also was the wastewater. I think that also brought out, we did a great job of informing people beforehand, but I think they came out to vote. I mean, they had all their information, but they were present for that. So it was both the ADU and the wastewater.
Well, the big wastewater article was the prior annual, our last one at Mattakees. The crowd, I believe, at the intermediate school, the reason why it was so large there was principally ADUs, because groups were out there stoking and beating the bushes to get folks out. The thing that I loved about the way that town meeting went was because people on both sides of the meeting felt that they were heard. Both sides of the issue that left the meeting. That I heard from many people who said that they felt that they were heard and they had a chance. So in many cases, the fact that they came out, they participated, even though they lost, or maybe they came out on top, but people on all sides of that came out. I believe they came out feeling that this was democracy in action. So it was a robust debate. People were informed. And I think those kinds of town meetings where you can get really a better understanding of why we're recommending one thing or the other, or to be able to hear the debate. I bet you there were people that came to that town meeting wanting to hear the debate. They were probably somewhat undecided. So I think the presentations, the discussion, the dialogue is incredibly important. Because I think people want to hear all sides of the issue. They want to learn more and learn about what the committees do. I will give the moderator huge kudos for also recognizing the volunteers and asking people to stand. I thought that was very smart, and it gives people a chance to say thank you. We talk a lot about doing an appreciation breakfast or some other thing, but you know what? At the very least, a town meeting being acknowledged. So I would give the moderator kudos for that. I want to give him kudos for saying something about some of the people that have served, particularly John Sears in his service to the town. So I thought in that sense there were some really nice gestures of respect that were in appreciation that were made, and kudos to the moderator for doing that.
I think also kudos to communications for the advance work that was done, and having someone speaking, having a video that somebody could go to and see them talking about the town seal or the wetlands, or one of the things that I think came out of that, it was interesting, some woman got up to the microphone and asked about the quorum. You know, she said, and was surprised to hear that it could go down to 1 if it had to.
If I can add, that's what I mean. I think we have a lot of new people that want to participate. In town meeting, for many people, is their first place where they're participating as part of the community. That's why I think it's really important not to lose sight of that and to find ways to have people maybe get more information and leave with the sense that they've learned a lot about their community.
Picking up on a point that Dorcas raised, and I think it's very important going forward, is the videos. Not just this town meeting, but previous town meetings. I've had a lot of positives come back from people where they see Bob maybe on a video running through the articles, or one that caught my eye just by accident this year was a town administrator talking about his misconceptions about town meeting and how he came, to a recognition of what town meeting was really about. Any advanced information like that, explaining the process, or, giving out, as Mark said, both sides of the debate on a particular issue. And there's not usually, when you look at the total number of articles, a lot of them are finance-based articles dealing with routine capital items or operational items. Who's going to vote those down? But you get to things like the seal, wastewater, affordable housing. What was the other one you raised about?
Wetlands.
Wetlands.
There was a good video on the wetlands that was out
Yeah.
there.
Adding positions, subtracting positions in town government. Most people don't know a whole lot about that, and they're important issues, and they're usually two-sided issues, meaning there's some strong arguments that can be advanced one way or the other. I think on those levels, especially, any information is good, as Mark said. Mark said this is a teaching opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, too, in civics. But it also helps people to start the wheels churning as to how they think they might want to weigh in on a particular article. Do they have things they want to bring to the public that they think is important that affect these articles? Or understanding them so they can vote more intelligently on the articles. That's where I think we have to continue our efforts. And that's why I think we're getting a lot of mileage. I've seen some of the worst critics of our town government say things like, oh yeah, that was great, because by the time I got to town meeting, I figured out what I wanted to do with that because of these advanced videos. So, as Mark pointed out earlier when we talked to the IT people, we're responding to some dramatic changes in media coverage that we never faced historically before. And we can't do enough, and we can't do it fast enough, but we can do it. And I think we are doing it, and I think we're getting a lot of good mileage out of it.
I also I want to thank the chairman for his comments that he made at the beginning of the meeting. At the previous couple of meetings, there's been some not nice things said from one person to another at the meeting, and you very made it clear that you keep it polite, keep the ad hominem attacks to a minimum, and not at all. So very much appreciated the opening statement.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I make just a couple of other points? I want to thank Paul for the fact that, at any meeting you're going to have a problem, right? But the fact that he was there and his team was there to to jump on things right away. Once my text messages started hitting, when I connected with him, he was already working on the problem. He was already on top of it. Things are not perfect, but the fact that you're there and on top of things is always a comfort to know. So
You have a good IT team that
you do.
supports that.
You do. You have a great team. It's good. And I just want people to, I mean, we're here, doing the wrap up, but I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that we don't appreciate the great work that you guys do. All right. The other point is, I'd like to, when we do this again, the next annual town meeting, is to talk a little bit more about the motions ahead of time. I did not like the motion that I made on the municipal budget. I'm so used to, in the past, being very abundantly clear that we're going to raise and appropriate the sum of X for the following purposes, and then we make it much more simple. I could see when I made the motion, there was some confusion in the audience because I didn't say raise and appropriate the following amounts. I basically, or at 49 million or whatever the dollar figure is, we went right to the transfers, and at the bottom of the transfers was 2.4 million. And I could see some confusion out there. People were wondering what's going on. You know how when you look at it, when you're trying to read an audience, I think we used to do it. We were very clear and very specific. But I don't know if it was town council. I don't know why we did it a little bit differently. This is like the second year in a row where that second article on the municipal budget, the motion to move that, is a bit more complicated than it needs to be. I think we need to just be explicit. The raise in the amount. Call me old-fashioned, call me a traditionalist, but I just assume get it out there, make it very specific, very clear what we're doing, what the overall amount of the operating budget is, raising and appropriating, and then transferring X amount from the following articles. I think that's great. I think we should do it like that again, and then let the moderator go through each section and determine if anybody wants to have a hold on any of the items, and then we address those questions. That's how we used to do things.
Right. Yeah, there were a couple of comments right in front of me going, I'm confused. I'm confused.
Right. So I would recommend as a fix for next time is we spend a little bit of time making sure that we're all clear on that municipal budget article, how it's written, and what the motion is, how we move it. So.
Well, I think also, Jennifer getting together with you, Paul, and Lori, this is where, she might be able to do some videos that it's like, Finance 101 for town meeting, starting with the fact that, again, impressing to people that money is only spent at one place, and that's at town meeting. Nothing is authorized except there. And I think a lot of people still don't understand that. That this is where you sitting in that room are the one that's going to decide what money is going to be spent in the town. And if Jennifer was just doing kind of a general, like enterprise funds, people never know what an enterprise fund is. We bring that up. Just some standard ones. And that way, when people don't have anything better to do someday, they can just, even if it's not town meeting time, just be able to click on it and kind of learn. Having Ken as the moderator, get up and talk about what does it mean to make a motion, or, like when we hear, you have to put that in writing if you want to make an amendment. What does that mean? Just some of those things that you see at the beginning of the warrant would be helpful, I think.
I think there are some towns, that's what they do. They either in the warrant that's distributed, they'll put some basics in it. We do have a glossary in our warrant. There is information that explains to people most of these terms. But maybe you're right, maybe adding it as a video item, or maybe making it clearer in the warrant is helpful. What I get concerned about is for most people, they don't see the warrant until the day they're there. All right. Mm-hmm. And we do have some folks in town that would benefit from seeing it ahead of time, and they may not be able to access it on the website or PDF or think about it. The value in mailing it is that we're affirming our existence as a government, and that there's, as a voter and taxpayer, they have, it's our obligation to at least provide some basic information on how their tax dollars are getting used. And then it gives them something that they can take. Now, I will admit, some people don't always take their warrant to town meeting, but a lot of folks will, and they'll make notes, they'll have their questions. Again, to me, there's the education, the civics part of it. I don't have a problem if town meeting goes an extra half an hour or an hour. It goes a little bit longer, that some folks can't get out fast enough to go see, The Voice or some other TV show. I'm okay if it goes a little bit longer, but they've left at least having a better understanding of how our town works and how our committees work.
I had a couple of additional suggestions as well, because I have all
Can you step up to the microphone, please? Thanks.
Richard Simon, Finance Chair. One of the things that I also would suggest that we might want to consider for future warrant articles is the adding QR codes. Again, for a lot of people, if you want to get, you mentioned find the link. Well, if you have a smartphone, all you do is take a photo of that QR code and it brings up the link. And again, that's another tool that we could potentially use for smartphone savvy people.
That's a good point.
To get, because then you can actually, I don't understand, click, you see it. It takes you to the actual information that you were looking for, or the video, or the fill in the blank. And that's something that is, again, in combination, if we mailed it out, you just sort of spot those QR codes throughout the document, and people can look at it. But I heard also my informal feedback, number of people I had encouraged as new town residents to go, did go, and they all came back and said it was really well done. With some of the suggestions and concerns that you've already identified.
Thank you, Rich. Bob, do you have any comments or?
No, I do want to say that I thought that the work that we did with the videos, the pre-information, and to get that out was really very helpful. I thought the idea that all of those articles were voted virtually unanimously, and I thought that spoke volumes for the process. And it's kind of interesting. You think back to some of the old town meetings. I think one of the things that we brought is a sense of organization to these town meetings, with the presentations and the slides that Bill works on, and having departments ready with information. A lot of times, it's hard, the balance on the presentations. I find, especially, when you do the financial stuff, people get impatient with you. They don't want to hear your long presentation. But in certain instances, a presentation is very helpful. But the way the departments are organized and the amount of information that people have at the ready, there's not a single item that goes into these town meetings now that is not choreographed to a great degree, whether it's between the finance committees, long review of it, the thunder slides that we have behind to bring out more information if people are interested in it, and the departments being there ready to answer every single question. I think that there's more information that backs things up at an organization level, and that's one of the things that I'm particularly proud of, is the orderly fashion that the town meetings move in. It's not just a free-for-all where no one has any information, where you throw up 70 articles and then people just fight over them. There's detailed information on every single point, and I think to the extent that we continue to make that available to people, use the matrix to break down each articles. I love the idea of having a code that you can look up things. I think it helps, and I think people notice it, and I get a lot of feedback that people prefer to have the articles well considered, well thought out, information available and the ability to, walk people through. People don't like to go to town meeting and to have it be a disorganized mess where it's not clear who's speaking, who's answering questions, what the information is, whether it's been thought out, and then people just leave it. And then, I think we've come a long way in the town meetings, and it's great to identify things to do even better because, it's evolving, and I think it's getting better all the time.
Paul, do you have any comments?
I think the pre-videos went a long way, and I would just like to offer up to anybody who's in a position to bring some education, no matter how small or how large it is, that is open. Most of this stuff doesn't have to wait till town meeting. If somebody has an idea today, that can already be begun to be filmed and hold it in our pocket for when town meeting comes, that we begin to put it out there. And again, we keep them short and sweet so that they can be put across the different types of media. So that invitation is open to, I know that the moderator come down. He did, I think it took a couple minutes, got some good information out there, and it can be played next time also. It isn't particularly focused on one particular meeting. Articles are, but the information of how our government is run and how powerful that town meeting is, and how any individual can stand up and bring us in a new direction with the knowledge that they have there. So I think putting that out early and often is really a valuable asset to our contingencies here in town.
One of the things that you've created, Paul, that I think needs to get out there more is this Cablecast app that you have. That's an incredible, I don't know if you've seen it or used it. Cablecast, this app is fantastic.
It sure is.
And somehow we got to get the word out. We need to push it out more. Facebook, Twitter, X, or whatever it's called, in as many ways as possible. This is an incredibly, I have on my iPhone an app called Cablecast. You can go to the App Store, you can download it, and you literally have at the palm of your hand all of the town of Yarmouth videos. So if I wanted to, for example, let's say this meeting was getting too boring and I wanted to watch your last finance committee meeting, for example, all right? It's right here.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. The quality of the video is high. So rather than me having to go home to my desktop, and it's by having an app with all of our committees and their videos right at your disposal is unbelievable. And I've used this quite a bit. It also has the school committee meetings in the palm of your hand, so it's an incredible resource. So I love the fact that you're thinking about other apps, because I would agree with you, the trend is clearly going, everyone is using the iPhone or a portable smartphone as their way of accessing the web, the internet, and so forth. And anything that, again, I commend you for figuring out how to do this. I love the fact that you're talking about other apps that are Yarmouth-focused that make it easier to access stuff on our website. But I think we need to do more to get the word out on the Cablecast, because it's wonderful. So good job.
I think tonight, I don't know if you noticed on the puzzle, each of our handles are that this app was put in, and that's going to be a blast out in all of our social media so that they see the different puzzle pieces and how to get to them. And that is one of them right there.
Great.
Wouldn't hurt to repeat what you were just saying, Mark, in that, to the folks that are listening, because I just did it and I didn't know about it. Go to your Play Store on your phone and just type in under apps, Cablecast, all as one word, and it automatically comes up. And I have the town of Yarmouth and I have Dennis Yarmouth Regional School.
Right there.
Right there.
It's an excellent app. Or on your Apple device, you just go to the App Store and then do the same thing. Search for Cablecast, and it's right there. And it's a very well done app, and I think it's great. So kudos to our IT department for helping us leap into this new age.
Thank you, and I'll take that thank you for the team, because it's many of the team members who see something and they bring it to us, we research it, and if it's helping us, we're putting it out there.
It's good.
Okay, we all set? Let's move on to the next item. Thank you very much, Paul. Rich, thank you.
You'll be seeing me.
Town administrative evaluation. I had all but one of those in by Friday, the deadline. Got the last one tonight just before the meeting. So all I have to do is input that information. The rest of it's all displayed, ready to go. And we'll have it, we'll put it on for the next meeting and for that agenda. Also, I'd like the full board to be here to hear the summary evaluation. So, but the work's been done. The biggest concern, excuse me, that I had was that you might be asking newly elected board members to perform this function. And I'm pleased to say that we got all of the requisite input from the sitting board. It's just a question of, like I said, putting in the input from that fifth evaluator, summarizing it, showing the trends and the strengths of the town administrator's performance over the last year. So I can tell you, as a sneak preview, that as was the case with last year, without looking at that last evaluation, there are no unsatisfactory or need improvement scores, either on a composite basis or individually. They're all in the superior and above category, which is no surprise. So I think it's going to profile very well for our town administrator, and we'll do that next meeting. Okay, board and committee actions.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board accepts the resignation of Ken LaFreni from the Golf Enterprise Committee, and that we accept this with our thanks for his service.
Was that a motion?
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes by a vote of 3-0. 2 members absent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the appointment of Jerry Niedermeyer to the Golf Enterprise Committee for a term of 3 years, which would run through April of 2026.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes by the requisite vote of 3-0. 2 members absent.
And that concludes what we have for appointments and
Okay,
resignations.
somebody want to move the minutes of August 1st, 2023?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes by a vote of 3-0. 2 members absent. Somebody want to move the minutes of April 30, 2024?
Moved.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes by the vote of 3-0 in favor. 2 members absent. Upcoming agenda review is next.
All of a sudden, we're very busy. David, thank you very much for the comments that we received at the last meeting, together with, we also, took a look at everything that was on the docket and filled in. Busy week next week, and then we've got some excellent items coming up. We want to do a labor update early in June.
Before we get into June, Bob, can I just ask, we were all sort of kind of on the edge of our seats regarding DEP and wastewater discharge permit, and we know that May is the big month. So do we need to maybe have I don't see any other, maybe it's an item on the June 4th agenda, but I think either it's our last. I would say that if we need to do something in the month of May, I hope we can find the time to set it, to meet, if we need to meet quickly. But I know wastewater is a big deal, and maybe we need to bring that up.
I think
Mr.
June
Chairman.
4.
June 4th would work?
Would be fine, and you know, I have for my, since you brought it up, under my update, there's a couple of items on the DEP and the wastewater permitting that I want to talk about. First and foremost, we had officially requested from the DEP the extension from the SRF program. You know, that's not a lot. We talked about, you know, having that, we've been working on that May 29 advertising date, but that's backing off from a fall, October contract authorization, where the normal contract authorization is July 1 for DEP. And so we had talked about many times filing for that extension so that we can take advantage of the fall time frame. And we have made that application, and I received correspondence today from Maria Pinot, the director, that we have been approved to have the SRF extension. So that is one item that takes a little pressure off us. And we've continued to have the meetings with our entire team, which is probably a dozen of us on our team, meeting with the DEP every 2 weeks. And I'm really happy to say I feel today we're going to make our deadline. That we are currently in the final phases of the permit discussions. The DEP has indicated that they've already drafted our permit.
That's great.
And they're reviewing the details of it. They're reviewing the details of our hydrogeologic analysis, which, you know, using the firm of Horsley and Witten, along with the designer CDM, we've ramped up the wetlands work tremendously. We have our meeting with the Conservation Commission on May 16, which we hope to get an order of conditions. The key issue is our monitoring, wetlands monitoring program, that we feel we have strong support from the Conservation Commission, and we also have strong support from the DEP. We have an excellent, very robust, to steal your term, wetlands monitoring system. And so we feel that the way that they have characterized it, they're back-to-back documents. They're working, they want to see that, the final on that monitoring system, get the Concom input on the 16th. And the way they termed it today, it is a back-to-back issuance. So they issue the approval of the hydrogeologic monitoring program, and then the very next day, the permit's already written, the permit falls. And they indicated that they feel that we will meet our deadline. So I don't have any reason at this point for alarm. I hope to be able to come in with our DPW director for an update on June 4 and inform the board that we have received the permit and that we have been okayed, and we are advertising for the bid. And we're going to try to do that by May 29. So it's just a little update on that.
That's great. Good job.
That's good.
On,
Job, Team Yarmouth.
on agenda items, Mr. Chairman, I wonder if we should be looking at, on June 4th, when we have our new board members with us, that we should discuss our getting together for our establishment of the goals for the coming year. It would be a good time, I think, to start talking about that.
Pick a date.
Day one.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So that's an agenda item, right?
Right.
Picking a date to
Right.
huddle and discuss goals. Did you like doing it at the,
I think at the Simpkins School, it's a great location to
Yeah.
do that.
I did too.
What did you do?
Yeah, I really think that it fostered some really good conversation, I think, having it at that location.
Great meeting space.
Yeah, it is. We have to make sure we don't park in the spaces of the folks.
We did, too.
Well, just don't dress up as a pirate.
No, they bring up a good point. That probably goes on for them at Simpkin School like every weekend when there are baseball games and that kind of thing going on at the field.
I love to see the pride in that community you've created. You know, what a successful development. Neighbors coming in with that sense of ownership and pride and where they live. They'll tell you about life at 135 Old Main, you know. It's something they're very proud of. So that was great to see.
So we're going to put that tugboats on also for the 14th, right?
Correct.
That's coming over. What's going to be interesting about that hearing, and why I don't think it'll be very lengthy, is the Board of Appeals has already set forth certain restrictions, which include hours of operation. And that's a given.
Highly detailed decision from the ZBA. It's in your packet, too. And
Thank you.
The advertisement, we made sure, word for word, there's nothing that's not out of that ZBA decision.
So, anybody else on agenda?
It would be helpful to, I know we have to make a decision on the special town meeting date. Have we picked a sort of a deadline for when we should pick that date? I mean, I know I'm getting way ahead of myself here.
Don't we usually go with October or November?
Yeah.
Late October, early November, usually.
I see it. Oh, we have it on the August 6th agenda to make a decision.
Right.
And we're looking at the 19th or the 26th right now.
Yep.
What's the August 6th?
Yeah, that's already on the select board agenda
I see it, I
items.
see it.
Special
Yeah,
time.
which
What
is,
do we have for tentative dates on that, Bob?
November 19 or November 26?
19 to 26.
Double check what day is Thanksgiving. I like to stay away from Thanksgiving week and Veterans Day week. Usually you can sneak it in between the two and it works perfect.
let's see. November 28th is Thanksgiving.
Right, so maybe the 19th is a good day to shoot for. That
That's what I would
sounds
recommend.
about right, you
I
know.
would recommend that we not meet on the 26th, Mr. Chairman.
What was Thanksgiving, the 8th?
Yeah,
28th.
28th, it's 2 days later.
So I got to get my pies in, you know, the oven. Because if I wait till Thursday, the turkey's in the way, you know.
There's
There you
only
go.
so much oven space.
There you go.
I agree. I think trying for the 19th makes good sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to delete that 26th
Yeah.
date for a meeting. Oh, the problem that we've got in November is that the November 5th, that's an election day, no meeting. November 12th, we get the Veterans Day holiday right before it. The problem is keeping to our requirement to having 2 meetings in a month.
I think we might have to look at meeting on November 12th.
Yeah. I'm okay meeting. We normally don't meet after a holiday, but you know what, that we may have to
That
break.
particular month, I think we
Yeah.
have no choice because
What do you think, Mr. Chairman? You think we should be,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, okay. So why don't we put the 12th in play and take the 26th
26th
out?
off.
Yep. Okay. Is that it, Mr. Chairman, on the whole upcoming agenda items? Yeah, I agree.
That's a plan.
Yeah. I think we got the new people going to be joining us soon, so that's when I think we'll get into more of an in-depth discussion at future meeting.
Good.
Agenda.
We also talked about scheduling a county update. We wanted to talk to you about that before we put it on.
Yeah, I think there's always a value in, one of the things that I think might be helpful on the county update for Christie Sanatoria and the Cape Cod Commission is we know there's a lot of work going on in Yarmouth on climate change, right? Low-lying roads, coastal high hazard areas and stuff like that. There may be some value in maybe having a county focus on that, right? Just put that out there. I also was contacted by David Bernstein from the Conservation Commission, who explained to me that a number of towns on Cape Cod are able to, by passing either taking certain actions, can make available to their residents a significant discount, not maybe a 10 to 15% discount on their flood insurance policies if they participate in some kind of program offered by the federal flood insurance program. So Shannon Hulst is a county employee. She runs she's the deputy director of cooperative extension. Maybe she can, as part of that county presentation, brief us on how can Yarmouth take steps to provide discounts and flood insurance for Yarmouth residents, because I'm sure we have several hundred flood insurance policyholders, right?
The rates
Currently-
are going through the roof.
And the rates are going through the roof.
Currently, we have county update down as an agenda item for July 9th.
That's what Bob was bringing up about,
Right.
So I think it's a good idea to do it. Those would be 2 participants and maybe 2 subject areas that they could zero in on. Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to the 6A too. There's a lot of work been done on that, and there's another community forum that's established for May 30 out in the neighborhood, and so the feedback's coming in, but I'd love to see the plans that have been going on with that. And what's interesting is just put in the back of your mind when we have this discussion, it always comes up that property in the back is all privately owned, and I know the businesses hold it tight, but you go to other communities, what a good place for a public parking area that would be. And I'm not saying to take people's land or anything, but if the local businesses needed help, I'll bet you if they turn that property over to us, we could put signage, organize it, and that would the problem on parking on the street is that
Goes away.
The back property is not organized properly. You've got the dimensions, and if that was properly organized to the benefit of everyone and not just a few, that would solve your Yarmouth Port Village parking. But we can't just jump in there and take the property from people.
No, they're going to have to want to get behind something like that.
But it's just something to think about. I think that would break the whole thing wide open. It's poor people sitting there, they got no parking for their business. Well, of course you're going to be crabbing that you can't park on the street that the state says you can't park on. But the key to that whole area is the dimensions behind those businesses. I'll just say that, and it's something we haven't been able to crack that code, but I love the streetscape proposals that they came up with. I think there's a lot of work has gone into that.
That's great.
It's coming along good. I think you'll like the update.
All right, does anybody have any individual items? No, do you have,
No, Mr. Chairman.
go to town administrator?
All right, we have the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes by a vote of 3-0, 2 members absent.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to also commend Kathy Williams for the great work that she and, I mean, there are a number of people that were involved in their work on this, but I read the revisions and the changes. I very much appreciate the additions and the revisions that were made based on our conversations at the board meeting. Very much appreciated. She does great work for the town, and I just want to just go on record as saying thank you. Another job well done by Kathy.
Thank you for saying that. It means a lot, because people ask is that, they wanted to know if their revisions to address the Board of Selectmen's comments were adequate and how you felt about it, so just thank you.
No, I think we all appreciate Kathy's work. She's an incredibly talented woman. We're very lucky to have her. She works incredibly hard. She works long hours. Sometimes it can be agonizing. I mean, the work on the ADU stuff, I mean, to get a unanimous vote on the planning board in and of itself, I could go on. She's just done a remarkable job for the town of Yarmouth. I mean, it took a while to gear up and get things going on a number of fronts, but there's a lot of momentum there in her department and the work that she's doing. So I've become a fan. So thank you,
Town
Kathy.
administrator items, updates, I'm sorry.
Okay, I talked about the groundwater discharge permitting and the SRF. I have another wastewater issue that I didn't want to address. We had the meeting coming up, and I wanted to really get some guidance from the Board of Selectmen on this, but we've received a request that Jeff Colby has forwarded to me from Robert B. Auer, requesting to go with the construction, the seasonal construction through June 14 on Route 28. They feel that that additional time past Memorial Day, I think it's like 2 weeks or so, a little more, would give them a chance to stop off at a much better spot. School will still be in session. The Mass DOT has done it in the past. Jeff recommends it. I don't have a major problem with it, but I was not comfortable in addressing that issue until I made the Board of Selectmen aware and wanted to see if you had any feedback. And I think if it's okay, we'll run with it. If there are more issues, concerns, questions, we could always put it on as an agenda item, but I wanted to get some feedback on June 14 for construction on Route 28.
What are the sections on Route 28 that would be impacted? I know they're doing it in chunks, right, in phases. So what would be that portion of Route 28 that would be worked on during that period?
I think it's the more toward the Parkers River area down that end, and we've got the Rivoli that's up near Forest Ave, and it's that next slug that's down further.
So it's headed west, it's not headed east.
Correct.
And it would be, because they're pretty close to Parkers River already. So it would be that next.
Area. They're making slow progress, but that's the general area.
So in terms of the traffic detours, it still would be one lane, right?
One lane, yeah.
I'm very comfortable with that.
I think as long as it doesn't go beyond June 14th. I think as we're getting closer,
Yeah.
you've got your kickoff of the Chamber of Commerce, the sandcastles and so forth that's coming up just after that, so I think we'd be okay there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the other contractor is going to be shutting down, so that first part where Rivoli is, we're going to, that'll be cleaned up, and
I'm
those
fine
guys,
with that as well.
those guys need some time to, I think get their program together a little better for the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've had some struggles. Another item, I wanted to mention this, I know it's been a long meeting, but I really want to thank Selectman Mark Forrest for some of his comments and, sitting down and reviewing some of these issues with me. And I'm working on a scope and a budget for an issue that he's brought up multiple times that we've, gone through at one level or another. And this is for PFAS consulting that would be associated with the plumes emanating from the airport area, the county area, coming through the Mill Creek sort of wetlands complex down into the bay, not directly associated with the water supply wells, which we have a consultant that's been working very actively, and the DPW has just put an enormous effort into the issues associated with the public water supply wells as well. They should. That's where all of the regulation is, but there's this entire area that has not been well regulated about the ecological impacts of PFAS in the groundwater that is heading towards the bays, through the neighborhoods, areas used for recreational, use for town residents. And I know there's been a tremendous amount of concern with any potential harmful effects of that. What are the issues associated with the plumes coming from the Gateway Airport? I've attended personally all of the meetings and vociferously demanded, right, that wells be placed on the Yarmouth side of the border all the way through there so that we can monitor that. And, they recently published what they consider their final response plan that they're submitting to the DEP. No additional wells, no additional work. And I think that, the town of Yarmouth is really going to have to advocate very strongly for, I think, a more just full analysis of the potential impacts of groundwater levels in the wetlands, how the PFAS is working, and all of those issues that, I made the comparison or metaphor with Mark that a lot of times with what we're doing with the water supply and the wastewater, we're almost like, a big snake that just ate a cow, right? It's very difficult to be agile enough to jump on every one of these issues. And I think the scientific issues are so complicated that just like we had a lot of success when we brought in that operations consultant on the airport to make specific recommendations that would impact people's lives adjacent to the airport, that this PFAS thing would really, the town needs to be in a better leadership position. And so potentially, that's an article for the fall town meeting, but we're going to work up a budget and a scope and try to share some information. And I think it's the way to go. And we were just talking about it, so I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on that and just make sure you were aware and supportive of that effort. And we'll come back with a scope and see what it looks like and have the DPW help us with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm very worried that we have PFAS coming into Yarmouth and DEP sort of overseeing all the cleanup efforts. And I just want to make sure that we're aggressively advocating our own interests. Sometimes it's very difficult to leave that to a layperson. I think you've heard me kind of grill the Conservation Commission. I've grilled other people on what they're doing to address this. I think it may very well be that we need to have a consultant, kind of like Bob said, we had a consultant help us deal with some airport noise recommendations and set us straight on some things that we should be insisting on the airport. I think having someone that can help guide us in terms of what we should be insisting that DEP do to make sure that groundwater in Yarmouth is protected, I think, is important. I still am concerned about the rates of water withdrawal in the Mar wells. I mean, it's part of the Mar wells basically are drawing a significant amount of water. They're drawing a significant amount of PFAS. I will admit that that's an issue, but it shouldn't be the central thrust of this consulting firm. It should be focused on PFAS and what should we be providing guidance and advice to us so that we can aggressively advocate on behalf of our municipality, because we have conservation land there, but also our residents who are concerned about PFAS in that area. There's some regulatory holes, so we need to figure out what we can do to make sure that stuff gets properly investigated and remediated.
No, I agree with you. I think that it's almost like every day something new comes out on PFAS. It's like a continual learning curve. And to be able to have somebody that this is their area of expertise to help guide us, I think makes a lot of sense.
Well, the town of Barnstable, at one of their council meetings, I think about a month or so ago, had PFAS and what the town's doing about PFAS. And I was surprised to learn that that the Mara wells are being pumped at a fairly high rate. Now, they're saying that they're complying with the Water Management Act, but I think that needs to be checked. But nonetheless, the fairly high rate of pumpage is intentional. And they were arguing that it's designed to draw PFAS into and towards the wells, which to me just seems so unusual. And again, that well field is literally right next door to the town of Yarmouth line. And it may very well be, because it's of the pumpage, it could be drawing the PFAS into Yarmouth. We don't know. We need an expert to help us figure out why we're ending up with PFAS there. If it has nothing to do with that site, then we need to be informed about that. As we know, PFAS can come into our groundwater in impact areas, not from an airport, but can come from septic systems. So there may be a signature list that can help us figure out what's going on. But we need some expertise. We just can't, I can't keep going after and urging the Conservation Commission to do something. It requires a technical expertise. So that's why I've been picking Bob's brain. What should we do? So that was his recommendation, which I think is a good idea.
It's a great idea.
I agree.
Good. So having come to this point in the agenda, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
For a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.